Welcome back to Call Me By Your Game, the podcast where I, your host, Connor McCabe, bring on a guest to hear from them about a meaningful or memorable video game from a particular moment in their life. You could say that this is a game about well, I already fucked that up. This is a podcast about what makes video games special to people. But this is a very a special edition of the podcast. Every so often, every 8 weeks or so, I bring back former champions of the show to list their top 10 favorite games of all time. I love giving my friends an impossible task, and that's what we're here to do today. A little bit of housekeeping up top is before we start, if myself or my guest plug anything, and trust me, folks, we will. You can find a link in the show notes wherever you're listening or watching. So whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast catcher, then if you scroll down, you are going to find in the show description links to all these goodies, including our Patreon. We got a great Patreon with a bunch of bonus content that maybe everybody on this podcast has contributed to at one point or another, including our upcoming Death Stranding Games Club. So if you want to play, Hideo Kojima's latest game, if you've already played it and you'll love it, folks, we're covering that for about 11 weeks on the Patreon. So go jump in there and check out what we've got going on to see if it works for you. But that'll do it for that part of the show, the introduction. I'll finally introduce our panel for today, who are going to be listing their top 10 favorite games of all time. We will begin with none other than artist, podcaster, sketch writer. What doesn't he do? It's Mr. Michael McCollor.
Hello, Connor. God, I'm happy to be here. You always talk about how this is an impossible task. I think this might be a psychopath test for me. I find it very easy. I just list all the games I like, and I'm like, which one do I like best?
Oh, do you know what? And I pretty much guarantee I know a version of what's going to be at the top of your list, buddy. But thanks for being here. You passed my psycho test. I might pass the psycho test myself. McCollor, you've been on the podcast many times, including a number of co-op episodes, the monthly group version of the podcast that I do here every month on the Patreon. But you first came on the show in the pandemic to discuss the original Resident Evil. And look how far Resident Evil 2, excuse me. We talked about Jake's dad. I think we called him Mr. Jake on the episode.
Mr. Jake.
It's been a while, but buddy, you're back. What do you have to say for yourself?
I think I've really grown since then. I know I said a lot of things that people were upset about, and I feel like since then, I don't remember. I'm sure I was a nice boy then, and I think I'm still a pretty nice boy.
That was an episode that I still recorded over Zencaster before I used Zoom.
Oh.
So I don't even think we saw each other. Anyway, McCollor, so glad you're here.
Glad to be here.
I wouldn't call you and this person a package deal when it comes to podcasting and video games, but I would say that you brought this person into my life and our group of friends' life. Please welcome to the podcast another returning champion, artist, podcaster. What doesn't this person do? It's Roxy Polk.
Oh, thank you, Connor. What a sweet intro.
Rox, so glad to have you.
I'm also glad that Mikey brought me into your life as well. How much fun this has been.
Dude, truly, my friends through, I think this is probably a universal thing for life for a lot of people, but when your friends introduce you to new friends that you like a lot, it works out well. The previous episode of this podcast with friend of the show, Kristen Thorson, who I know at least Michael Hearn knows pretty well from our Half-Life series. Kristen's another one of those people like you, Roxy. I've never met in person, but that I really like and I love getting to talk video games with. So so I consider myself grateful to have those of you around. Roxy, you first came on the podcast literally with Mr. Michael McCollor, a pseudo co-op episode. It wasn't officially co-op, but we talked about Resident Evil 3 remake.
Yeah.
2020. Way back when. And
it was around the beginning of the pandemic, I think, because I feel like that game and Animal Crossing launched around the same time and kind of just saved people from all the insanity of that time period.
Yeah,
I remember specifically Animal Crossing was a nice distraction, and then Resident Evil 3 remake opened with talks of a global pandemic.
Yeah. And
But
I
it
think
gave you agency to do something about it. You can
That's
shoot
true.
a nemesis. You can destroy Umbrella.
yes, it's either deal with your problems or pretend like they don't exist was the options. And I think even Doom Eternal, one of the Doom games released on the same day. Oh yeah, Gamers Tavern in chat. Because we
Yeah.
stream these. If we do a top 10 episode, folks, they're getting streamed live on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/consiscool69. Yes, Gamers Tavern is reminding us of that Animal Crossing Doom crossover.
So many good fan art memes of that.
Yes.
Like the dog swapped with Doom Guy.
So
Isabel,
good.
Isabel, yeah, there you go.
I don't need to catalog your entire history on the show or your contributions.
Oh, we can do that.
to
We
the
want to add
network.
like two more hours to the stream.
I do want to just bring up your first solo episode, which was only about a year ago. We talked about Final Fantasy 14, a game that you kind of like, I guess.
Yeah, I just kind of like it a little bit.
Okay,
you know?
that's
a little
right.
bit. It may or may not
How many hours
come up
do you
today.
have, Roxy?
A lot.
Do you? Great diversion. We have one more guest that I got to introduce. Does this person need an introduction? Cinephile, fiance, man about town. It's Mr. Michael Hearn.
Hello, everyone.
Hearn, welcome back. Another original, like a very early guest of the show, who actually, your first episode we recorded in person discussing the original Doom.
Yes.
I mean,
that was good times.
Ooh.
You know, it's not, and not to say that the two we've already listed don't fall under the same category, but Hearn, there's so much Hearn lore on the Super NPC Radio Network, from, you know, your little butt to Michael Hearn. The list goes on and on. You're a fan favorite, buddy. Have you been?
Thank
and
you.
And anything that you wanted to say up top?
No, I've been well, and thank you for. I'm glad to be here. Glad to do this with you guys. Great company to do this with, and then more things change, more they stay the same. The more we're still invested in video games and each other. So always happy to be here and part of it.
Dude, absolutely. Well, without further ado, what was that?
I'm a sweetheart. It's why I'm engaged. Yeah.
That's for dang sure.
I'm glad we only have sweethearts on this episode. If there were any bullies or racketeers, I'd be stumbling.
I do group you by how I perceive you act around other people. The bullies episode, we've already done that. It was obviously the one that Jeremy and July were on together. But anyway, we've got a big assignment today. And the way that I kick these episodes off is with a little explanation, just in case this is someone's first time listening to this show's top 10 favorite games style of episode. And the explanation is our guests are going to be listening their 10 through 1 favorite games of all time. There are no rules, meaning you could have a franchise appear more than once on your list. You could have 2 versions of a game appear more than once on your list. You could have a tie, which I'll tell you I've got at the top of my list. There really are no rules I'm putting on my guests. Some people love that. Some people say it actually makes it harder. And I say, do with that what you will. And another way that I always kick off these episodes is I usually go through and I recap my top 10 favorite games of all time, usually because there's sometimes a game will jump a spot or so. And I like to keep that list updating. It's changed, since I started doing this about 2 years ago.
So Connor, do you do one every year? So is this your 3rd one, or how many have you done?
This is the 8th episode where I've done this, and so
about
every 2 months I do one of these or so.
Okay, so how much does things switch then?
Sometimes, I mean, it's true. It's very minimal, minimal. But since I've started doing this, I have a new number 1. Since I've started doing this, we've had games leave and enter. Today, I'm adding a twist to this. I'm not only listing my top 10 favorite games of all time, I'm also going to list my top 11 through 20, folks. And so I'm going to speed through the top 10. So don't ask me a thing about it because I want to get through it. But just to recap, we have number 10, Halo Combat Evolved. Number 9, Portal 2. Number 8, Shadow of the Colossus. Number 7, Skyrim. Number 6, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. Number 5, Super Smash Bros. Melee. Number 4, Pokemon Silver, pretty much interchangeable with Soul Silver as far as I'm concerned. Number 3, Backyard Baseball. 2001, number 2, Super Mario 64. And tied at the top of my list is 1B, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and 1A, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. It's a Zelda fest at the top, folks. And now I got no other choice but to list my 11 through 20. So while I pull up that document, because I've got too many docs for this exercise, I'll start at number 20, and I'll leave a little space in case anybody wants to jump in. But number 20, we currently have a game I played last year. 2 games from the year 2023 are on my list, and that's Alan Wake 2. I know Roxy, we played Alan Wake, not together, but we did a podcast on it.
Yeah.
Has anyone played
It's very fun.
2?
That is on my
Yeah, I
list.
have.
I'm so mad I haven't played it yet. But I want to.
You know
Oh,
what?
you have, Hearn?
It'll be
I
there.
have, yes.
Nice.
Ooh.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
If you like the Remedy stuff of like not just Alan Wake, but what Control has been doing, especially with like the meta narratives and what they've been playing around, this goes even further. And I don't know if you played the DLC yet, but the DLC is also a fun little wrinkle of stuff too. Of just having fun with it than being like an expansive DLC, but it's just funny to keep it going and stuff.
Well, it's kind of connecting it to some of the other games a little bit more, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And like there's lore within it that's new, there's lore that's making fun of itself in it. It's all a lot of like, it's pretty much has to be a video game too, which is the coolest thing about their storytelling with Remedy is like, no, you could have seen like, oh, this funny meta story could have been a film or something. No, this has to be a video game for certain reasons. It's very clever.
Big time. There was countless reasons. I loved it. I liked the first Alan Wake. You can hear that episode on YouTube or on our Patreon. It was a Press X to Scream episode, which is amazing.
Oh, yeah. It was like the only one you hosted, and I think it was the last one we did.
Yes. Yeah, it is the last Press X to Scream. I also did a co-op episode at the beginning of this year on Alan Wake 2. The countless reasons I loved it. Hearn did a great job recapping. If you haven't played it, folks, I don't even think you need to play the first one as much as I like the first one.
Oh, really?
I think you need to watch like a recap.
Oh, okay.
But
Gotcha.
That's my personal opinion.
Okay, cool.
Honestly been with keeping me from Alan Wake 2 is I do not want to get through Alan Wake 1. I bought it the day it came out in like 2001 and I hated it. I was like, I hate a flashlight. I hate this man. I hate Stephen King.
It's a weird ass game. I still like it.
Mikey has beef with Stephen King. It was a running joke on our movie podcast.
That's why
They're gonna fight
in my life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Stephen King famously has been requesting to come on this show, and I've just been denying him because of the beef.
Thank you.
Yes.
I do ask all my friends to take sides too between me and Stephen King.
And I did. Number 19 for me, again, Alan Wake, number 20. Number 19, Metroid Dread. This is my representative from one of my favorite genres on this list, and it's number 19.
Only 19, wow.
I know. I love a lot of Metroidvania style games. We just completed Hollow Knight on the Games Club. It was my first time playing that. That might be a top 10 game I've ever played, but it's just not one of my personal top favorites. I thought Dread did everything I wanted with, not only being an amazing action exploration focused game, it gave me that, side-scroller Metroid back. And also, like, it built on everything that Mercury Steam did on Samus 2 for the 3DS. The bosses are amazing. The story and the world building is great. It's gorgeous. Number 19, Metroid Dread. Number 18, a game I played last year for the first time. And if it weren't on the list, its predecessor would be, but it is, and that's Mother 3. Speaking of games that Hearn enjoys, and not just because they haven't gotten an official translation.
Japanese.
But I love a turn-based RPG. This one is so unique and so charming in so many ways. Amazing story. Like I was so captured by it. Mother 3 is number 18. Number 17, and it's amazing this game isn't in my top 10, but it's Tetris 99 is number 17. Folks.
Oh.
I love Tetris forever. I'm not the best Tetris player, but folks, there's few things I like to do more than sit down and get 18th in a Tetris 99 battle royale. It's the gift that keeps on giving. I can play it anytime. whether I want like a challenge or to just kill some time. It's amazing. It's my favorite version of Tetris. Number 16, a game that a few people know that I really like, and it's truly, this game is on here only because of nostalgia, and that's the original Fable. Any Fable
okay.
players here at all?
No.
No,
I thought
that's
that was a
fair.
Roxy thing. I would have said that was a Roxy joint.
Not
I don't know
even
why I
you?
thought that.
Maybe
I
because I
played
like
a
Dragon
little
Age.
back in the Xbox
Yeah.
day. It's not a series I pursued forever. I do get some of the references that you've done, like Chicken Chaser and such, but
Yes,
Oh, I
yes.
chase a chicken. Oh,
The
Truly,
game
chicken
has
boy.
it has such a specific sense of humor.
yeah.
it really does. Honestly, here's what I liked about it growing up, and I have it on my PC now, and I started a playthrough just for fun. So I'll just tell you as I scramble to type these games into the Twitch chat, Twitch list rather, that you can see as we're live streaming this. It's a really fun and simple action RPG. It's great. The world I love being in, partly because of the music, partly because it was one of the first games that I played, kind of like the Zelda series, where it felt like you could kind of go anywhere, and way more than the Zelda series, do anything. And it's just amazing. The tone sticks with me. I'd never played Fable 2. It's on my list. I bought Fable 3 the day it came out, and while I liked it enough, it definitely was disappointing to me. So yeah, anyway, Fable is my number 16. My number 15, a game which a different game from a franchise is on, used to be on this list, and that is the original Metal Gear Solid, folks.
Ooh.
I go back and forth all the time. If you listen to our Metal Gear Solid Games Club from 2022, which is on our, for those of you who aren't patrons, it's on the Super NPC Games Club free feed. Scroll back a little bit to find it now. That was my first time like really getting into it and into the series as a whole. And I have to say that I would wake up, in 2022, and I wouldn't know if the original was my favorite, if Snake Eater was, if what Guns of the Patriots number 4, or even
Well, it's not
Sons
Guns
of
of the Patriots.
Honestly, I love
Right?
I love Guns of the Patriots. Like,
Really? Okay.
I had a great time, but it's not, well, as you can see by my list, not my favorite Metal Gear at the moment. Anyway, but so I keep going back to the original Solid, Metal Gear Solid, number 1. So that's my number 15. My number 14 is a game that I played last year for the first time. It is my point and click adventure representative here, and that's Grim Fandango.
Oh, hell yeah.
Roxy, I know you at
So
least
good.
played this.
Yeah, it's really good. I even played that, like, my parents love that game. I was like playing it when they were in the room, and they were like, "Oh, play more of the skeleton game."
It's just, it's such a, okay, the gameplay of that game, it does not hold up. It's really frustrating in a lot of ways. It's a lot of pixel hunting, but the charm from the world design is some of my favorite world design in the world. Visually, it reminds me of my favorite, of like pre-rendered 3D backgrounds growing up, whether I'd be playing a PC game or a PlayStation game at a friend's house. The characters and the humor and the puzzles, even the obtuse ones. I know I just said that the gameplay's crappy, but some of the puzzles are even so clever. Grim Fandango is another one. Basically, any of these have been knocking on my top 10, but they're just in my top 20. That's Grim Fandango. Number 13, Mario Kart DS. It's not an unpopular opinion to be like the Mario Kart DS is my favorite version of Mario Kart, but it is mine. It's not as, the gameplay isn't as good as Deluxe, as 8 Deluxe. It doesn't have as many tracks, but it introduced as the first game that had retro tracks in the series. It was a game that the first one I believe you could play online with people. And it also had the missions mode, which is essentially like an entire other game of using your cart to do like little tasks, whether it's drive through 8 gates in a certain amount of time, or defeat a boss like a giant Goomba in your Mario Kart.
It had boss battles?
It had boss battles in the missions mode.
Okay.
I played through it at the beginning of the year, just like as like a pre-bedtime game, and it was amazing. That's my number 12. Number 11, honestly, I think as this list continues to 20 through 11 keeps getting listed on this. It's going to climb because it was at one time my favorite game of all time. And if I really think about it, I think it probably should be in like my top 5. And that's The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, I was surprised Majora's Mask took it from Ocarina of Time for you, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, Connor's a little freak.
I'm a little freaky deaky.
And we
It's a
love
little
you for
freak
it.
Zelda.
Thank you.
A little tingle, yeah.
Ocarina is the first Zelda game I ever played. It really opened my eyes into like what video games could be at that age. When I played it when I was, I believe, 9, turning 10. I played it the year that Majora's Mask came out, so I was excited for Majora. Majora has just grown on me year after year after year. And that's why it's my number 1, but Ocarina is still incredibly special to me. And lastly, sorry, I skipped one. Ocarina is number 11. My bad. Number 12 is Chrono Trigger.
Ooh.
Kind of like an obvious, like, of course, that's on someone's favorite top 10 list of all time, or, games of all time list. But
which version of it, I guess, should we specify?
I've played the Super Nintendo version, both on emulator and cart. I've also I have the Super Nintendo version and the DS version. I think my preference is the DS version, but I've never beaten it. I've only beaten Super Nintendo on cart. It's the first game I ever emulated. It's a game that immediately captured me. Did you have something else to say, Rox?
Oh, I was just saying it was neat. I've only played the PlayStation 1 version and got to the final boss and could not beat it. Planned to do it later and then never did. So,
dude, so tough. This game is just
very good.
It's so good. I finally finished it for a co-op episode in 2022. A lot of these I have covered a lot of these, whether it's on Games Club or co-ops. That's it. I'll go ahead and list these off really quick again so we can get to the main event. My guests listing their top 10 favorites. Number 20, Alan Wake 2. Number 19, Metroid Dread. Number 18, Mother 3. Number 17, Tetris 99. 16, Fable. 15, Metal Gear Solid. 14, Grim Fandango. 13, Mario Kart DS. 12, Chrono Trigger. And number 11, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Let's do it. Folks, we're here for my guests to list their top 10 favorite games. We're going to go from number 10 all the way up till everyone's number 1, and we're doing the snake style, so I'll get one at a time. We'll list a number and then move on together. We're, of course, starting with Mr. Michael McCollor. Buddy, give us your number 10, please.
Well, so my list, I definitely thought, like, it feels insane to have. There are a lot of entries that I kind of group a couple of games in. Like, they're games that are similar enough. And so in my top 10, I'll have one big representative of them, because it felt insane to waste 2 slots on one series.
Yeah.
Except for this series. My number 10 is the only duplicate. My number 10, because I felt like Resident Evil means enough to me. I can put 2 Resident Evils on here. My number 10 favorite game of all time. First of all, I made a top 10 list of just my favorite Resident Evil games, just to actually suss out how I felt about this. My number 10 favorite game of all time, Resident Evil Code Veronica.
Wow.
I know.
Veronica, yeah.
I couldn't believe it. It's got exactly what I want, just in terms of like old Resident Evil gameplay. The puzzles are obtuse and weird. The story is silly. It's just like it was on the Dreamcast, which was weird. It's just like it is simultaneously a game that I feel at home playing and a game that feels bizarre. It
is like weirdly cozy. It has like a weirdly cozy feel to it.
Shocked to find out it's my second favorite Resident Evil.
Goodness,
so
dude.
There's that.
I mean, Claire is in it, so
Claire is in it, who is my favorite Resident Evil character. Yep.
Forgive me. Claire was in the one we played, right?
Yes. Claire was in Resident Evil 2.
And Leon. Okay.
Red Jacket.
Honestly, I'm already feeling nostalgic about that Games Club, y'all. We need to force ourselves to just do 4 remake at some point. McCaller, I'm so happy that there are 2 Resident Evils on your list. That's awesome. That's your number. Code Veronica is your number 10. Roxy, I for the listener, peek behind the curtain, I kind of made Roxy put these in some sort of order before we started the show. So let's first of all, round of applause for Roxy, everybody. I don't even know if you hear this on the podcast.
Thank you.
For short notice.
Just for existing and just moving things around
just in
on
general.
the sheet.
We know how deeply Roxy feels about everything. So it's gonna feel like an insult to her to like put any game above any other game. And so it is something we definitely appreciate.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, Roxy, what is your number 10 currently on your list?
So my number 10 game on this list is Fallout 4.
Ooh.
Which I know is like a controversial pick for a lot of people because it is also my favorite Fallout game. And for a lot of people, they fucking hate this game. But this was like the first Fallout game I played. It came to me at like a time in my life when I really needed it. So I have so many memories of just playing so many hours of this game. I'm not really an open world game kind of person. So this was like the first time I really dug in deep and like explored the entire freaking open world of this game. It turned me into a loot goblin. Like how much of just like clicking, picking up everything, every piece of garbage you can find. And I was like, I'm not going to do this base building thing. I hate this kind of stuff in games. That sucks. I won't interact with it except for when I have to. And then lo and behold, it's like, nah, this is actually really chill. I'll put on a podcast and just go and loot and build things. And I don't know why it activated a part of my brain that I thought didn't like this kind of stuff. And yet it did.
I love it. Now this is a great example up top already of like, you know, sometimes people come on this show and they're like, oh, do I have to list the best games? And it's like, no, these are your personal favorite games. And I love what the lines that it can color in for us about a person. So Roxy, I would have never guessed that you were a Fallout person in particular based on what I know about you. But Fallout 4, that is awesome. What'd you play it on? Do you remember? Was it PC?
I played it on the PS4. I remember PS4. I got a used copy for really cheap at like a used game store that was near me. Cool. And like I won't go too far into it, but like I was borderline depressed at the time. So it's like this game really kind of pulled me out of something like in a very positive way. That I don't think I've ever had another game like kind of affect me where it's like hit me at a time in my life when like I needed it. So not only was it fun, but like, hey, bouncing around the post-apocalypse, hanging out with ghouls and freaks and super mutants and stuff, that's more fun than what's going on outside right now. So yeah, this is a rad time.
Gosh.
And so many of the companions and stuff are just really fun, specific characters. And like, since I had never gotten into the franchise before, so much of it felt like really fresh. Whereas like, I'm sure if you had played any of the other games, stuff is going to be like very familiar, a lot of references that can be fun, but it was just really cool to like kind of jump into a franchise that had been around for a long time and experience it for the first time, kind of like in the newest iteration of it.
I could be wrong, but like as a Fallout outsider, I feel like I remember the complaint about Fallout 4 being that it was just too much like the old Fallout games, right? Is that kind of your understanding? Because like, therefore, like if it's your first Fallout game, that's great. That's perfect. You haven't gotten tired of the feeling up until that point.
Yeah, I think one of the problems too is Bethesda using like the exact same engine that they made Fallout 3 on. So it is like different. There's more to it. It's definitely been like, you know, years and years of game dev and technology to like made it more up to date. But at the same time, if you look at them side by side, like maybe some people are like, this isn't the biggest jump. Some like cognitive dissonance with the storytelling kind of thing where it's like, oh, your significant other has been murdered and your baby has been kidnapped. Go find them. Don't you want to find them right now? And then it's like you get sidetracked doing all bunch of bullshit and stuff.
No. Gosh.
That's funny.
Well, I love that. Roxy, your number 10, Fallout 4. Hearn, it's time for your number 10.
All right. Already having like, I wish I chose stuff. When you brought up Grim Fandango, I was like, you know, I should have had a LucasArts representation on my list. I love those games from back in the day.
And that's
you can change it live. No one's seen your work before.
Yeah,
we haven't seen your list.
It's true. You know, that's a luxury that I, as the host, have because I get to come back on every edition of this and amend my my greatest mistakes. But Hearn, why don't you go ahead and share with us?
Fine. I'll be proper and not do that because also I tried to do a similar thing of representing only one thing, which didn't necessarily mean series or even specifically genre, but like what a game means to me.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way I could be like, well, I can pare it down to 10 now instead of choose every single thing. But the 10th game that I'm going to choose, it's technically multiplayer, but I would call it Labor of Love. And if you told me this would be in my top 10, I wouldn't choose it. But then I started sharing gaming with my fiance, Kelsey, This is one of her favorite games and one of the really the only game that I think she would consider herself great at because she's now won it a few times. I'm talking about Fortnite, the Epic Games
Ooh.
multiplayer battle royale, which we have
Dude.
now played hundreds of hours. Like that's the other thing. If I'm choosing my top 10, I can't lie about the numbers and be like, I've not played Fortnite. No, Fortnite is probably my most played game. Even if I'm like nice and split half of the hours with
Yes.
Kelsey, on my PS5 alone, it's over 400 hours. And we've played for multiple seasons, seen multiple changes. We even get nostalgia sometimes being like, oh, I miss when we could ride velociraptors and now we have cars or something. Like just, and Fortnite itself is a very random ramshackle game. Like even this map is a mix of different things they've been doing the past couple seasons. But the main thing is, especially no build mode, just the battle royale element is just immediate. It's like what you get out of Tetris. It's fun anytime. It can be short, it can be long, you can feel like a champion. You could die within 10 seconds and be like, oh well. But what me and Kelsey really get out of it is it's really communicative to her, like how to get into the strategy of the game, and it really helps break down video games for her a lot. And I think it's made her more engaged in my hobby as well. So it's very near and dear to my heart for that.
That's cool.
That's
You know,
awesome.
truly for a
Thank you.
podcast that's about, like what gaming means to people, it's like it's so many of these games on our lists are like, at least for me, so this is relatable, Hearn, is like, oh, I shared this with this person, or this was like a window into this relationship. So, dude, so cool.
Thank you.
Before you move on to your number 9, can you tell me
Yeah.
what's like your skin right now? I almost said costume. What's your skin that you've been rocking lately?
So
Peter Griffin?
that's the thing. I
Are you
was
Peter Griffin?
buff Peter Griffin in a tuxedo for a very long time. And I think even
Oh my
God.
it was Chelsea who wanted to get out of it, not even because of like, oh, I'm sick of the skin or whatever. It was literally because she's like, is the hitbox on him too big, maybe? And it's like,
Oh,
she's a
whoa.
gamer now.
Dude.
I should also preface, we have not spent a single cent on Fortnite. Those hundreds of hours, like you get V-Bucks, their in-game currency from beating in-game leveling up. And that's been the leveling up that I've been putting into the battle pass to get more V-Bucks. And it's been a cycle, so
Dude.
not spent a single dollar on it. So I'm happy about that.
Nice.
But,
Huge.
But right now, the skin we got, which we won recently, is a skeleton version of Jack Sparrow.
Okay.
So it's Jack Sparrow, but specifically like his deceased version, I think was in one of the movies.
Yeah.
Skeleton, peer and few. Doesn't look
bad
like Johnny
ending
Depp
Jack
very
Sparrow.
much. Yeah, exactly. Cursed Jack Sparrow is something I bet it's called, but yeah,
That's
that's
funny.
what we've been playing as.
Hey, we're coming up on spooky season, so you'll
That's
be
true.
all set for Halloween.
Absolutely.
That
I
might
just
be
saw
their new season. I wonder.
I saw Mr. Jack Sparrow at the ye old Disneyland park yesterday. He was looking for a lot of pirates are looking for him. It seemed like he had wronged somebody. Hearn, that's your number 10. Fortnite.
Yes.
What about your number 9?
All right, number 9, and this is probably why I'm going to live with no LucasArts. Just this kind of fits into the idea of like story and character and charm and humor, but it's also mostly representative like a story-based RPG that I really get out of. Like my preferred speed of RPG isn't bait-and-encompassing Baldur's Gate style, customized, replay forever, 100 hours. It's more simple and concise and small, and I'm going with Earthbound for that, Mother 2. Which, and I could have done with a few. I love Disco Elysium. I love Knights of the Old Republic. I love some Dragon Quest games. I love me some Dragon Quest. And I love some Final Fantasy games, but I think Earthbound was so early and like so indicative of what Japanese RPGs especially were to me, because I did have this I still do, for Super Nintendo. I do remember ad campaigns like the Scratch and Sniff stickers and all the stuff like that. And
the box was big, right?
Yeah, the
I
box
remember
was
coming
big.
in a giant box.
Yeah,
cool.
I don't think I have it anymore, unfortunately. I lost a lot of boxes. I know I have a lot of regrets with some boxes. But I just remember like it's one of the earliest RPGs I beat, and it made such a big distinction in my mind as like, this is kind of what RPGs are. It's like this really cool, interesting story that has to be told as a game, that has to put you in the role playing of it all. And then it just fills itself with charm. Obviously, all the Mother games do, especially 2 and 3. And I want to beat 3 so I can maybe see how it competes eventually one day and say that's my real favorite. But as of now, I've still only beaten Earthbound. So I have to be proper and say Earthbound 2, Earthbound is the one.
Dude, Very nice. I know you and I
Thank
have
you.
talked a bunch. I mean, Hearn, 5 years ago, we did
Mhm.
a Video Games is Serious show overview on Earthbound. It's been
Yeah.
so long. I mean, when I played that game, I played it basically twice in a year in 2019 because I fell so hard. And I wonder, too, if I went back to it and played it all the way through, would it swap places with Mother 3? They both, I feel like, do a lot of things well in common, but they also have some different strengths, I think.
And there is like a conversation in the game style, well,
Yes.
the story style, even the narrative between them a little bit, not like an actual continuing story, but like you couldn't get Mother 3 if you didn't know what Mother 2 did with the RPG format.
Yes. Well, dude, that's awesome. Earthbound is
Thank
your
you.
number 9. Roxy, we're back to you for yours.
Okay, so this one is technically 2 games, but
I love it.
the continuous like story, gameplay, game design, and everything, they came out one after the other, so it was basically just like one game that was split is more like. This one's a little more fair than some of the other ones I'll pull.
Oh, I love it.
So this is Shin Megami Tensei Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2 for the PlayStation 2.
Whoa. Okay, I
Do
didn't.
any of you know what that is?
I know
I
what
thought Hearn was going to
SMT
leave me
is.
blinking and staring at the camera. Shin Megami Tensei 1 and 2 Devil Bucks.
Digital
Wow.
Devil Saga?
Interesting.
Digital Devil Saga, yes.
Okay, you got to tell me about these because I'm not aware of these Shin Megami Tensei
Now,
games.
this I gotta hear about.
Okay, so it's like a turn-based JRPG, and if you've played any of the Shin Megami Tensei games where they have like a huge any of the like Persona games as well, like they have a huge library of demons and creatures and stuff that like the designs kind of carry over through all of the different games, like even since the first one they created a while back. But this one has a setup where instead of like recruiting demons to fight for you, you are the demon, and so you can switch between being a dude with a particular, or like a character with a particular gun, because you'll have all different party members, and then they're like demon form, which will have different weapons and different element types. And so a lot of it is kind of like a rock paper scissors, trying to plan to get character specific weaknesses to get additional turns and all that. And so it's like in a weird, like post-apocalyptic sci-fi world, like ruled by gangs, kind of like a Mad Max thing, but it feels like a little off. And like as you keep going more and more, you're like, oh, okay, things are like a lot more weird than we thought.
Wow.
And it ends on like a huge cliffhanger for the first game, and then rolls into the second game. And the second game just like goes places I have never seen like narratively in a video game before, especially as a kid. It gets into like some crazy kind of like metaphysical type of stuff as well. I don't want to like get too much into it because if I do that, we'll be here like forever. But it's like incredibly unique. The style is like kind of cell shaded and like really snappy looking. It looks really good. And just the story super unique, vibes really unique, soundtrack's great, combat is super fun. I love those games, and I feel like I wish Atlas would do more things like that, where it's just like, here's a weird offshoot where we had this cool weird idea that can't be like a mainline game, but here's this weird thing, enjoy. And I'm like, yes, okay, cool, more of that.
Best we can give you is another royal version of Persona.
Exactly. Let's release Persona 5 like 5 times. Everybody loves that, right?
Gosh, wow. Is this a series you still play to this day?
I like
well,
the Shin Megami.
I guess it's an offshoot, so.
Yeah, like the franchise, the Shin Megami Tensei games in general, like Persona is technically one of these. It was an offshoot, and has become greater than the main game series it was an offshoot of.
Really, the Better Call Saul to Shin Megami Tensei's
Oh,
Breaking
interesting.
Bad. If that helps you visualize it all.
There you go.
I love it. That's awesome, Roxy. Shin Megami Tensei Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2, your number 9 games. McCaller, let's hear your number 9.
My number 9 is also 2 games.
Ooh.
Portal 2 and Donkey Kong Country. No, it's not. It's not at all.
I was like, walk me through this one.
My number 9, actually, when Roxy was talking about Fallout 4, it kind of made me think of this number 9 game. I do think that this is a game that is probably the least loved in a franchise, but is my favorite. And I feel like 9 times out of 10, when people have a different opinion than me, I'm like, I get it. I see how you could get there. I know why you would like Devil Dogs 1 and 2, Shin Megami Tensei. Like, I get it. It's not
Yeah,
for me,
you
but I
nailed
get it. My number 9 game is Batman Arkham Knight.
Oh, yes, McCall.
Okay.
This is the one with the car, right?
This is the one with the car. And
All right.
I will say, like Batman is my favorite superhero, probably my gun to my head favorite fictional character. I love Batman. I'm a Batman boy.
Really?
I don't love the Batmobile as a part of the Batman mythos. I like him sneaking around in the sky. Like, I don't like him making a show of himself. But in this game, Batman Arkham Knight, I don't know, guys. That car's fun to drive. It's fun to drive. It's fun to turn it into a tank. It's fun to kill bad guys' tanks. Like, gameplay-wise, that game rules. It's so fun to shoot missiles out of a tank, and then you get out and you find a group of bad guys and you hit triangle at just the right time and you give them a choke slam. Like, gameplay-wise, it's so fun. But then also as a culmination of that story, that game is such a smart and interesting way to end a Batman Joker story. It is about like it's something that I really feel robbed of in the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. That like that third movie, I remember reading a review that says this movie has a Joker-sized hole in it. You can't introduce a character like the Joker. I understand why there's no Joker in this film, but that's like core to Batman for me. The Joker, I don't like necessarily as the main antagonist of a Batman story. I like him orbiting a Batman story because what his presence says about Batman is what the story is to me. And the way Arkham Knight does that is so smart. The Joker is there constantly, but he's never like, you don't really fight him. And it is just like a really smart, interesting, I would argue brave take on what this Batman Joker relationship has been. Nothing about Batman Arkham Knight I don't love.
How does this fit into the series? I don't really know these games very well. Is this like the second one or third one?
This is the third.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And this, for all intents and purposes, I guess Suicide Squad continues it. I haven't played it yet. This wraps up the Batman Arkham story. This makes it a complete round story.
Okay. Does it kind of feel like a trilogy in that way?
Very
or
much
the
so, yes.
Oh, okay.
It is a trilogy about Batman and the Joker. Like, it is about that relationship. I'm realizing that's something that I really love in movies and TV shows. It's not so much that I fall in love with a character, it's that I fall in love with a character dynamic. I like two characters who bounce off of each other. I think about a show like Lost that it was led by Jack and Locke, two characters that like are not always in the same scene, but they are always reacting to each other. Like, they're always like, whether or not they're together. Breaking Bad, Walt and Jesse, like these dynamics, whether they're sharing the screen or not, are so interesting to me. And Arkham Knight is this great storytelling moment. It's this great gameplay moment. I get the intellectual concerns with the Batmobile, even though I think it's one of the funnest things I've ever done in a video game.
Dang. That rules. I mean, I hear love for every game in the series, and like how there's a Joker-sized hole in the Nolan third movie in Dark Knight Rises. There is an Arkham-sized hole in my gaming history. I've only touched the first one, Asylum, truly to sample it for a show. I can't wait to do that, and then finally get to this one. McCaller, that was your number 9, Batman Arkham Knight. How about your number 8?
Well, my number 8, it's Guacamelee 2.
Oh, neat.
It's
why do you say it like that though?
Because I was shocked that it like made the list and is this high, but like I did do this thing where like I listed every game, like I was going through every console I've ever played. I was looking at my like digital libraries and just like listing every game that I kind of liked. It was kind of, I just have this big list of games, and then I went through and circled the ones that like popped me emotionally, the ones that felt resonant. And I just like, just thinking about Guacamelee 2, we had just played Hollow Knight for the Games Club, Connor.
Yes.
And like how much Metroidvanias mean to me, how much I love a new Metroidvania, and like how there are like subtle tweaks in all of them that make them go one way or the other. And having just talked about Hollow Knight, which is maybe a better game, but like has a worse end game. Like the end game of Hollow Knight ended up like souring me on it a little bit. Guacamelee 2 is a game that I've 100%ed twice, like once on PlayStation and once on Switch. And I was just like thinking about how fun it is and how it still has surprises. And like I know that I'm a story guy and story in games resonates with me a lot. It tells a very fun story. Guacamelee 1 has like a fun story that is just a basic like save the princess thing. Guacamelee 2 is like one of the first multiverse stories I remembered well before we were all so sick of multiverses. We wanted to stop seeing even Marvel movies. Can you believe we got that sick of multiverses? But like it has a multiverse story that plays into gameplay, that does fun things, that has like an emotional core, and you're playing as a pro wrestler in a Metroid-like game. Like it is kind of scientifically designed for me to like. Guacamelee 2.
It really is. And you were the one, as I was getting back, like going from a casual gamer who played a few titles a year into like a freak who can't stop playing games at all moments in like 2018. I remember you were playing one of these when you and Jeremy lived together, and that's how I heard about it. So I'm glad to see a Metroidvania on your list, and I'm not surprised to see a Guacamelee. That's your number 8. Roxy, we're back to you for your number 8.
Okay, so this number 8 game is also number 8 in its franchise. So I didn't really do that on purpose, but here we are. So it is Final Fantasy VIII for the PlayStation 1. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised it's down this far, but in a way it's kind of like my gateway into like JRPGs and like more complex like games, you know, aside from like
and
platformers or something. Like, huh?
Is it also your gateway to sword guns?
Yes, it was actually. But I love Final Fantasy VIII so much. It made such a huge impact on me. I didn't even know like games could tell stories like that. Like I basically played like Frogger, Tekken 3, and I think Crash Bandicoot really before that. And I was like, oh, you can have games like this. You can tell a huge complex story. I was an anime kid, you know, it's got like a very involved storyline, and them both being like Japanese made games, and tangentially like related to that too. It was a kind of storytelling that like I kind of vibed with at the time. And I remember trying to download this game like on PC somehow on like our horrible dial-up internet, and like not letting my parents know that I was doing it because it was probably like taking up bandwidth or something. I can't even remember what it would have been on the time at the time. Maybe blocking people's calls. I can't remember, but I was like, oh, I can't let them know
the
I'm trying to
water
download
wasn't
it.
working at your house.
And it was like I didn't have enough money to buy it yet, so I like tried to do that because I was able to play it at my friend's house for a bit, and I was like, oh, okay, this like the knowledge of this changed my brain chemistry. I need to get this now, but I don't have money yet. I'll save up to buy it, but for now, I'll see if I can try and figure out how to get it for free. So there was like a week I was trying to download it. I thought I had done it. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. It did not work. So eventually I saved up to buy it, and it was like the first PlayStation game I ever bought. It came in like the double disc,
yes,
you know, case
jewel
and everything.
case.
So nice. And I love this game so much. I think also it was like right as I was about to hit like angsty teen idiot, you know, when your brain chemistry is also figuring itself out, so everything sucks to some extent. And like Squall is very much like that kind of a character, like as a lead. So I'm like, yeah, everything sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, who is your crush in this game? If you had to pick like a crush, whether it was back then or who resonates with you now, I'll kind of leave that open to you.
Who resonates with me now? I mean, like I probably have to replay it now as an adult.
Or do you remember who like your number one crush was? Because everyone's
definitely Squall, because he's so cool and edgy, and he's got a gun plate, and he wears black leather.
Dude, and I can't believe I shamed it by calling it a gun sword earlier.
I mean, also same difference. Like,
yeah.
Have you played this game, Connor? Do I have to like hold you accountable for knowing every vocabulary word?
Thankfully, no, but I do know. I'm familiar with 8. It's actually I've never even started it, but I would love to play it someday on the endless backlog of JRPGs.
It does a really cool thing with the mechanics that I in no way understood as a child, and it wasn't until I had a friend as an adult who told me like when they did the like remaster re-release for it, where like that game scales to your level, so you don't even have to fight all those random battles unless you want to.
Yeah.
And like if you're smart about it, you can just kind of go through it in like a very different way.
That's cool.
Did not know that as a child, and I grinded on this game for hundreds of hours.
Dude. Well, the last thing I want to point out is that your number 8 was Final Fantasy 7. Excuse me, God. Final Fantasy 8 was your number 8. And this is part 8 of the top 10 games of all time series. So I don't know what that means, but
Hey,
who knows?
Can I tell a Roxy Final Fantasy 8 story real quick?
Yes.
okay.
And I really love this about Roxy. But like, she's one of my main Final Fantasy friends. And I remember very early in our friendship, her telling me like, well, if you're going to get into Final Fantasy, you should play 8 because 8's the good one. I was like, really? It's not 7? I feel like people like 7. And Roxy was like, no, 8. 8 is the one. And so I like embedded that in my brain. So whenever I meet people who they're like big Final Fantasy fans, I'm like, so you like 8 better than 7, right? And everybody
That makes
like,
everybody
no,
fight. They're gonna fight with you.
absolutely
That's
not. What are you talking about?
hilarious.
7 is the thing that matters. And I was like, oh, I thought the real Final Fantasy heads liked 8 better. It was just one. It was just one. But that is my like what is it? Auteur theory? That's not quite right. That is my like I believe that the true fans like 8 more, and I don't know if that's the case, but it is something that's like a core belief of mine about a series I have played 0.08 games out of.
I will say that in 8's defense, like 8 was the first one I played. So many people 7 was the first one they played. And I feel like it's the first one that was 3D polygons with like the painted backgrounds. Like when you look at 8 or 6 compared to 7 is such a huge jump. So like if you were playing the other games beforehand, I can understand why 7 would be your favorite. But I had the ability to play both 7 and 8 at the same time. And like maybe it's where my teenage brain was at the time because the main characters in 8 are teenagers. And the main characters in 7 are like adults. But it had like a more
soldiers.
It had like a more cartoony style to it, whereas 8, everybody was like kind of full
Everyone's a
normal height
model
and stuff. I mean, yeah, there's a really funny comparison where like there's a school dance kind of thing, whatever, and one of the characters comes up and says, "Hey, you're the most handsome guy here. You want to dance?" And like his pixel art face is like so janky and goofy looking.
I've seen that. That's pretty good.
It's just like it's such a good meme, and it's like, yeah,
Gosh,
sure,
sick.
he's handsome. Okay, I guess.
Well, I love that, Roxy. You're number 8. Final Fantasy 8. Hearn, we're over to you for your number 8.
Thank you. Just want to shout out. Well, I brought up to Chelsea that I would talk about Fortnite. Just now, she's playing it, and she just showed me she got us to platinum in this season's ranking just now. She's very humble about it.
Huge.
She's saying she died immediately, but you can see she killed someone at number 15 and killed at 13. So
platinum sounds good to me. I love that.
Yeah, that probably means you've gotten like all of the skins this season or something, right?
Close. Ranked is separate from like the battle pass.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's still like we've just been playing it a lot. Then
Nice.
Well, congrats.
Thank you, and passing on to Chelsea.
Yeah.
My 8 is also going to be a Metroidvania, sort of in the Guacamelee vein, but I also wanted to cross this over with roguelites because roguelites have kind of been like a genre not everyone gels with, but I've been like on a tip of really digging like when a game feels replayable, because I don't replay as much as I used to. I used to maybe do that a lot more when I was younger. And I think the justification of roguelite is you get to replay it a lot and it feels different a lot of the time. And if you already guessed it, it's Dead Cells, which is a Metroidvania roguelike that's had a lot of good DLC crossed over with Castlevania, stuff like that. And so much so that like I'm actually a couple DLCs behind it. I haven't seen everything. But as just the most important thing about it is a Metroidvania, but it's a very sharp like action dynamic to it. It's a very quick fighting game element to it, very quick customizable weapons. You build and combine abilities and sort of like know and upgrade how you like to play with the current output you got, and you can always experiment and you can always know that it works better in certain environments or not. There's just a great strategy to it on top of being like a very fun Metroidvania with secrets that you can figure out, and it's, as a result of being a roguelite, probably endlessly replayable. Definitely, I was big on it early access, and it's only gotten better and sharper, so that's a really great sign for it and whatever future games the developers are going to do.
Nice, Hearn.
Awesome.
Dude, what a strong number 8 right there. I love it.
Thank you.
Well, while we're here, may as well get your number 7.
Yeah, why not? While we're here. So number 7 is in the genre I like to call perfectionist. So And this is a kind of a recent game that I've been playing, but I've kind of been into it because I've been getting Metal Gear Solid 5 for the first time. Kind of been rekindling the stuff I like that sort of genre to do. But I don't even think of this so much as like a stealthy, like actiony game as much as I think of it in that perfectionist thing. Games that I just like want to get the best runs of or want to solve in these weird ways. And they're not just like puzzles, they're like logically based. It's really hard to explain, but
it's like muscle memory almost going on runs like that.
Yes, but also combined with like you should be sussing out stuff because it can always change, or you should always figure out games like Tony Hawk and Stuntman Edition is like a personal favorite of mine that are like you feel like awesome when you do a really great run of it. So this game is Hitman: World of Assassination.
Damn.
Recent Hitman reboot games, and again, I'm fine on the older Hitman games. They're fine. I was always Metal Gear Solid more than Splinter Cell or Hitman. It's simpler. I even went back to Blood Money just to see what it was like, and the writing is much worse. Hitman World of Assassination is not only like really like it's just a bunch of levels of like really cool playgrounds, really cool character stories that you can figure out by gleaming it from overhearing people and figuring out their weaknesses and their strengths, and then just like a lot of fun with it. It's very smart. You're always doing goofy things. It has a great sense of humor about itself too, whilst not being like too aloof. Like the famous level that like Hitman 2 that really crossed me over was like the Miami level, where you could kill someone by setting them up on a car that's going to like explode on the raceway. But you can also get inside a mascot costume and kill them in a giant bird outfit. Like it's
the fact that they let you be that goofy is just so fun, and like just speaks to probably how much fun they have designing these games as well. Just coming up with stuff like that. It's so cool.
Yeah. And if you're into perfectionism, the fun of it is that it tells you all the stuff you can do. Like it like lays out all the like different opportunities. It lays out like challenges to you. You can try these like roguelike levels where you can replay challenges, and I even play like a customizable, like people can add their own missions where you're supposed to like customize and do like kill this character in this way. And I imagine it's a crapshoot, but some of them are really like clever and like, okay, so you actually like have this logic puzzle of like, I can only kill this person in this way, but that would be giving up this thing, or that might be more susceptible to being caught by this other person. There's just like a million ways each playground of a level could like be customized. But as the main game too, just as is, it's just super smart, super quick, and probably endlessly replayable. I've played it for like hours and hours. So
I haven't played a lot of these games, but something I've noticed when I've seen like other people playing them is just that like the people you're hunting down are always such dirt bags that it's just like so satisfying to also kill them. Just like narratively, it's like, seeing these shitty people get their comeuppance, like that alone is satisfying. Not to mention that you can do it wearing a mascot costume and killing them with fish or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So cool, Hearn. This is I love the creativity that I hear about in this game, and it's on one of a million games that I'm like, gosh, how have I not touched Hitman? So you're Agent 47 stand-in. Hopefully none of the people on this call are a target. Hearn, that was your number 7. Roxy, how about yours?
So my number 7 is Persona 3 Portable.
Ooh.
So specifically, this was the one that was on the PSP. It let you play as a female protagonist. And it added or combined a lot of the other ancillary stuff. So initially this was a PlayStation 2 game. And then it came out with kind of an expansion afterwards that was like a separate game.
Yeah.
So this is like the complete version with both of those parts to it. And then also you get to play as a completely different protagonist if you want. And so it changes a lot of your relationships with the characters who, if you had played the first game, things are different. So in my opinion is the ultimate way to play the game. And I am extremely upset that the Persona 3 Reloaded game that they came out with this year is just not that.
Yes.
It's just, what if we just remade the base game without all the extra stuff? I'm like, why? Okay, great. But so Persona 3 Portable is still the best version. They've also recently ported it to Switch and plenty of other consoles now. It's on PC as well. Limited Run did a physical release of it that I still have on pre-order that hasn't shown up yet, but eventually I'll get it. I've been seeing people sell it on other sites like secondhand. I'm like, why haven't I gotten my copy yet? What happened?
Awful.
But it's super fun. It's the best Persona game in my opinion. I played Persona 2 on the PlayStation 1. and then the PSP really just got like the remakes of Persona 1 and 2 and 3 like this that were just really good, and it sucks that they're like trapped on the PSP for the most part. At least Persona 3 Portable broke containment and now it's on modern stuff.
Yeah.
But like the remakes of Persona 2 and Persona 1 really deserve to get ported over to more modern systems because they're also really good.
Yeah. Dang. You got a really nice RPG list right here.
Yeah.
Like, you know, three of which battle systems I'm pretty sure are, you know, turn-based JRPG style, and then of course Fallout 4. This, but your number 7 again, Persona 3 Portable for the PSP. That rocks. McCaller, let's get your number 7.
My number 7 is Mass Effect 1.
Whoa!
Hey! That makes me
Yeah.
so happy to hear that is on your top 10 list now, Mikey.
Right.
I never would have thought that. That makes me so happy.
I wouldn't have thought that either, but I know you loved this game.
Yeah.
I did. I loved it so much. Yeah, me and Roxy, for as good of friends as we are, and how much we both love Resident Evil, I think every other game we have the exact opposite taste. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's a Roxy game. Devil Bucks 1 and 2. No. That's for Roxy, and I'm happy Roxy has it. Mass Effect is the first one that like it won our games club. We got to play it all together. And it just like the combat, it like I had played KOTOR, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, and really enjoyed it. And Mass Effect is a game I had tried a couple of times, and like it feels the same as Knights of the Old Republic, but it evolves that combat in a certain way. But like,
Well, you were playing on
that
Legendary
whole-
Edition this time around too. So like,
That's
were you
true,
trying to
yes.
previously play it on like the OG edition? Right?
Yes, I feel like it was one of those games that like I saw cheap on Xbox 360 and got and tried and just like, blech, get out of here. But yeah, this is like a triumph of the games club. It got me to play through this game. I'd
Wow.
already played through it once with Roxy. Like we played it over a weekend and I was like, yeah, that was fun. That was fine. But this games club is where I like really tumbled into it and fell in love with my shepherd. I'm writing a sitcom pilot now about a character that is based on the way I was thinking about my shepherd in Mass Effect.
Oh my gosh.
That I do want to like capture footage from Mass Effect and cut together as a sitcom, and then have my friends do voice acting and like
Amazing.
do a Mass Effect sitcom. It sparked my brain in a way that like not a lot of those choose your own adventure kind of games do. I tend to be against those. I would prefer to have an artist lead me through a story than to have 6 watered down stories that all kind of flow together. But like, I feel like the way Mass Effect does a choose your own adventure narrative is really smart. It is really like, there's a core story, and then you can like color the edges based on who you fall in love with or who you punch in the face at various points. Like, it's such a great game. It feels good to play. I've played it now 3 or 4 times.
Whoa, already?
Yeah, well, just because like we played through it for the club, and then I
Yeah,
popped it
you
in and
did it
played it
again,
again.
right?
You like platinumed it as well, I think, right? Or
And I
like
platinumed
got
it.
all of them.
Yeah,
You got
did
all of
it
it for
all.
Mass Effect 1, right?
yes.
Yes. Okay.
And that's what's so wild is I still haven't gotten through Mass Effect 2. I think I messed up in having my first playthrough be that legendary playthrough,
Yeah.
and it was too hard. And
You
I
were
stopped.
doing it. Okay. So
and-
like, yeah, the part you're at is like one of the hardest parts of the game, especially for the build you have as well. Like,
Oh yeah,
because Mikey started streaming his Mass Effect 2 journey, and it was
Yeah.
at a part where like he was also playing it on Insanity too. So like Mass Effect 2
Exactly,
Insanity.
That's what I meant.
is-
That's what I meant. Insanity, not legendary. But yeah,
Yeah,
insanity is
you can
way
always
too
just
hard.
bump that down to normal. You can't
And
bump
I
it back
did.
up. Okay, good.
But I've very much like 2 or 3 times now gotten out of the flow of Mass Effect 2.
Gotcha.
I very much enjoy it, but like the way I was rolling with Mass Effect 1, and again, it was like when it was just a weekend with Roxy, it was fun, but it was kind of like fluffy, and I didn't really like get any of the story nutrients out of it. Mass Effect 2, I'm kind of getting the same thing for the opposite reason. I'm missing a lot of the storyline nutrients because I've let it go too far between playthroughs. So I think I need to
Gotcha.
just start over.
You might as well.
Um,
You were pretty early.
Yeah, well, I mean, I had like a weekend where I tried to finish it for the
Oh shit. Okay, so you got
episode
further
you
than
guys
I thought.
did, the monthly Call Me by Your Game Mass Effect 2 episode. I
Yes.
was like, well, I could just finish it, and I think I can beat it now, but like even that weekend playing it, I was like, well, I want to see all of it. I want to get all the uridium off of this 18th planet I found. So I assume I will one day like Mass Effect 2 as much as I like Mass Effect 1. But for right now, I am firmly in the camp of, and this is something I've heard from Mass Effect fans before, that like Mass Effect 1 has the best vibes, Mass Effect 2 is the best game, and Mass Effect 3 is close on both. I don't know.
Interesting. I love that.
Yeah, I'd say the combat in 3 is like the best. It feels so good.
Oh,
playing it on Insanity feels like the way to play it as well. Like I would,
interesting.
encourage you to play it on Insanity.
Well, I'm glad to see some more Mass Effect 1 love. Mutual friend Eddie Martin has that, high up on his list. The first one as well, on I think one of the, like maybe a couple of these ago. But that's awesome, McCaller. We're here with you though. Let's just do your number 6 while we're at it.
Let's talk number 6. Number 6 is time for my Zelda representative. And this was hard.
I know which one it is.
Do you? I didn't. I listed them all. I'm actually like replaying right now Breath of the Wild and loving it a lot. Ooh. But my answer is Wind Waker. I'm a Wind Waker boy.
I did know
Is that what you thought?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
I think I've said it before that it was my favorite, but like I put it through the fire of all the other Zeldas. I looked at all the Zeldas. Like Ocarina means a lot to me. Majora's Mask I've actually never finished. But I do like it a lot. Like it's spooky. But Wind Waker is a great story. Like I keep coming back to story games. Like that's what put it over for me. Like I love so much of that game's world, and the characters are fun, and it's art style looks the way I want video games to look.
It is timeless too. Like they pick such a good style. It's gonna look good in 50 years. It looks great now.
Absolutely. It holds up. It looks so good.
We'll still be waiting for Nintendo to release the HD
Switch
version again.
Yeah.
But yeah, like what an interesting story to tell. Like I feel like the Zelda series got really, really good at saying we are telling the same core story, kind of in the same way Mass Effect does. They're telling the same core story, but with everything around it, all the details change. It's all mixed up. And finding a world full of oceans, like the feeling I got soaring through when that music kicks in, what could be more fun than Zelda Wind Waker? The music sucks though. The baton is stupid. I wish I had an ocarina.
The instrument, the Wind Waker itself.
But also your ship talks to you, and that is cool and funny because he's like a lion.
The King of Red Lions, just as a character, should be number 1 on my list.
That's fair. Yeah.
Gosh, he's good. That game's amazing. Another one of, I think that was my 3rd Zelda when I played it. And when I finished it, I was also like, this is my favorite game ever. It's amazing. Wind Waker is a triumph.
Knockout of an ending.
Yeah.
What an ending that game has.
Dude, big time. Well, that's your number 6. Roxy, we're already back to you for yours.
Yeah. Hey, guess what? Big surprise. It's another JRPG.
Ooh.
I think no one. And it's a PlayStation 2 JRPG, and this is another one which is like, it's 2 games. It's 1 and 2. These ones are not quite like split in the middle like the Digital Devil Saga one is. So this is the first one where I'm like taking some liberties. So whatever. But Shadow Hearts 1 and 2 for the PlayStation 2. These are like horror JRPGs, which is a very small niche genre, and there needs to be more of these. It has like
we're talking about a pro wrestler in a Metroidvania designed for me, horror JRPG designed for you, Roxy. Like,
yeah,
damn, dude.
I feel like I'm constantly like trying to find games like this. Like Parasite Eve, the first game, also made it almost made it on this list because I love it so much. That's one of them. And then like Kodelka, the game that preceded these games, is on the PS1. Super good, super weird and niche. Like nobody knows what it is, but
Kodelka,
really good.
I hardly know her.
Yeah. But like I just want more horror JRPGs, and these games in particular, they have like also like a sense of humor to them as well. They know when to like make things really spooky or creepy or kind of grisly, and when to like have a character moment that might kind of like cut the tension, or something very cute or friendly to have happen.
Interesting.
And the first game, super good, came out around the time that like Final Fantasy X did. So like its release being timed with that kind of like really hurt it, because everyone's like, I don't know or care what this is. Final Fantasy X is over there. I'm gonna go play that instead. So literally when the second game came out, they were giving people who pre-ordered a free copy of Shadow Hearts 1, just so it's like, please play this so that you can play the second one and care about it, please.
Whoa.
Because no matter what ending you get in the first game, the bad ending is canon. So that's what the second game starts out with, the bad ending with one of the main characters dying, even if you struggled so hard to like save her at the end of your game. She's fucking dead. And so like so much of the second game is kind of dealing with the grief and like moving on of that and like kind of trying to find like, I don't know, how do you live on after the most important person to you has died? Like trying to make your life kind of worth it, or like actually having fun living again, making new friends, things like that.
Wow.
And
makes me want to cry.
The combat is super fun and snappy, and it's not like usual JRPG combat because it is timed button presses. So you've got like this wheel with chunks of it like segmented out, and landing a button press when the what's the word? The like needle goes around this circle will like get you a combo, and you'll be able to do all of like the move set that you have. But then there's also like a little crit slice in that one. So if you are really risking it, you can try and get like 3 critical hits and do like a fuck ton of damage, or you can try and play it safe and get like 3 normal hits. And then they'll let you customize it further where it's like, what if I want to try and get 5 attacks, but they're even smaller slices of the pie and the crit is even smaller. So if you're good enough, you can do that. And so you can pull off some insane stuff. And the second game also introduced like combos with other characters as well. So it's like this crazy fusion game that like so much of the stuff they throw in there, maybe if you described it, it wouldn't, you'd be like, how does that work? But it all works super well.
Awesome.
And it's really good. The cast is like really delightfully weird and kind of unhinged too. And like very lovable. The second game has like a dog who is like trying to fight other like battle dogs in the new cities you go to. It's also like a period game where it's taking place like after World War I. And so it's like an alternate history thing. And each of the games have it where like half of the game, for the first game, half of the game is in Asia, then the second half is in Europe. And then the second game, it switches it where the first half of the game is in Europe and the second half of the game is in Asia. So it's like really well bookended narratively as well, which is just so cool. I love it so much. It's so good.
Oh, that rules. I've definitely like, as I've looked up best JRPGs on the PS2, I have seen this game. When I saw the images of the wheel specifically, Roxy, I was like, oh, yeah.
There's even a whole sanity system too, where like some characters are more likely to go like it basically how many turns can you do to complete this battle before you need to like use an item and like spend a turn to replenish it if you have it. And then also your main character turns into monsters. So you're slowly unlocking more monsters that he can turn into. Which is cool too. There's a whole mind palace thing with like this graveyard. It's so good.
Dang.
I'm surprised it's number 6 on my list.
I know. After all that passion. So number 6, Shadow Hearts 1 and 2 for Roxy. Hearn, how about yours?
All right. Number 6, I'm kind of putting in a category. Like, I don't think anyone will disagree this is a great game. I'm putting in an interesting category. I'm calling the meta game, like a game that is celebratory of gaming of it. And I think and I'm glad McCollor is here, because he really described what makes this series so great in his last entry. I'm talking The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds as my specific Zelda choice, as a game that is also just celebratory of its own history and how it can like mess with it and make it new.
Yes.
I love when games can do that, whether it's like a Pikmin 4, like calling out all the Nintendo games before and Astrobot, obviously, or a retro game challenge where you're like playing new games made up for the Famicom and making pretend you're a kid. Link Between Worlds is taking a leap from time and just changing it up, and it's like that was the big game for the Super Nintendo for me, and the fact that you could still do so much new with it, especially on the DS, 3DS specifically, and all you can do with it is just so nifty and new and fun. I just had a screamingly good time when I played this for the first time, and it reminded me why I love like all the other Zelda games that I really love. And there are some I still have blind spots on, like I still haven't beaten Majora's Mask either. And then Spirit Tracks is one that thank you. But I just it's like, it's what I think of when I think of Zelda. It's not just that it's like, oh, this great adventure game. It's also like so like what McCollor said, like so like recontextualizing of its own self, of its own language, and it's so cool. I'm really looking forward to Echoes of Wisdom. Just the fact that they're still doing that to this day and even did it with Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. But like, I think just that specific isometric thing too shouts out all that like flood of nostalgia for me. So very excited about the new game. It might different this one. Who knows?
Dude. Oh, I love that too. Just any Link Between Worlds love warms my heart. Like,
Yeah.
again, this is my favorite series, Zelda. And so, like, my list of favorite Zelda games makes me feel like a criminal in the sense that, like, they all can't be like 4 through 1 or whatever. But yeah, that game is a masterpiece. Easily one of the best games on the 3DS. A system that has a great library. That's your number 6, but how about number 5? Let's get into your final 5.
All right. My final 5. This is number 5, and it's on the PS5. The Nintendo for that. And I'm calling it the genre of customizable action adventure. This is famously one of the big Souls-like games, and this was the one that really got me. Like, I was kind of into this series. Like, I liked a King's Quest game for PS2. I really liked. I liked Sekiro, which I beat before this, but I couldn't get through the Dark Souls main games for a while for some reason. I couldn't figure it out. This was the one that made me understand what these games are all about. Demon Souls remake for PS5, where halfway through a play where I was the melee character, I was just struggling and I was not sure it was right for me. And I restarted as a magic character and I realized it made it a completely different game.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the point of the Souls, like, a lot, is that you are so customizable. You can challenge yourself, very Hitman-y in that sense, but it is just like, but it's so level-based, so specific. It has its own challenges to that, obviously. And yeah, it's all the Souls-like things that people love and hate about it. It's tough as nails, but it's because it wants you to be good at the game. It wants you to be paying attention, challenging yourself, trying new things, and really pushing your own limits. I beat this game a couple different ways already. I think I'm close to a platinum. There's one very annoying find all the ring trophies that I can't figure out, or at least I could, and it would be with a walkthrough and maybe not that fun. So maybe I just haven't done it that way. But I love the level design of this game, even the poison swamps and everything. I love.
He loves poison swamps. I haven't played the Elden Ring DLC, but like, have you seen that interview with him talking about the poison swamp?
Yeah. It's just like, geez, calm it down. Even Elden Ring itself has, I think, more. Yeah. And it's a funny, like, very shout back to like old school RPGs like Wizardry and stuff, where the point is to be so punishing, but in such a more playable version with all the action that's still visually representable and good and beatable if you're good enough and build enough. Love these games, but I love that, like, this one has the special place in my heart for being with the one that made me understand it.
Dude, nice.
Awesome.
Your real launch point to be a real fan of that series. That's awesome. Well, so we got Demon Souls Remake at number 5. Thank you, Hearn. Roxy, let's get your number 5.
My number 5. Okay, so this was hard since this is a game or franchise that, like, 2 games in the series I really, really like. So it was definitely a trying to pick my favorite child situation to pick which one of these was going to be in this spot.
You do have to throw the other off a cliff, just FYI.
Yeah, I'll blindfold it first, so at least it won't have to deal with it. But I chose Dragon Age Inquisition. I almost chose Dragon Age Origins, but like Dragon Age Inquisition is special to me on a lot of other, like, additional levels.
Yes.
Aside from just really liking Origins, which, like, I literally just beat Origins on stream on Tuesday, playing it again. Like, I played it before I was streaming, but so I'm getting ready for Veilguard, which is coming out on Halloween of all days. So I'm playing all of the old games in preparation for that. And Inquisition is like the 3rd one in the series. And it is a huge game. They had a lot more dev time leading up to it to, like, put a lot more stuff in it. And this game also came out when I was working at Dark Horse Comics. And I worked on the art book and, like, lore books for this game specifically. So it has, like, a special place in my heart where it's like, I'd be working on it for work, then go home and play it. And then like games in the series leading up to it and everything. And it's like, it's the reason why I bought a PS4 finally. It introduced me to all of the other BioWare games because of this. And just it adds so many more additional systems. Graphically, it's like a very beautiful game. I think it still holds up even now. The character creator is like way more robust than they had ever had in a BioWare game at the time. And just narratively, it's very cool. It has way more areas to explore, way more of the world and like the lore to kind of get like a lot more immersed in and feel like you were exploring the world instead of being sort of like guided through it the way Origins and Dragon Age 2 are. And I mean, for some people, they hated that because it's like, I don't want this pseudo open world thing. And I'm like, yeah, that's fair. But you also don't have to really interact with it that much if you don't want to. So it was really cool. It opened up a whole bunch of stuff for me. I love this game and I'm really looking forward to playing it again really soon.
Yes.
But it's a beast. So like trying to do this before Halloween, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. We'll see.
Yes.
But
Wait,
it's
did
gonna
you
be-
say already when Veilguard is getting released? Is that the Halloween release or is that something
Yes.
else?
Yeah, that's the Halloween release. And so I still have to play Awakening, which is the huge expansion to Dragon Age Origins. Haven't even started Dragon Age 2 yet. And then all of Inquisition. And then there's like the animated series and 2 other movies. It's I thought I had
One
more
thing at a
time.
time, I guess.
I thought they were going to release it like holiday. I thought I had to like around December or something. And then they're just like, hey, guess what? You've been waiting like 10 years for this. And now it comes out in like 2 months. And I'm like, okay, great.
Gosh, that's it's been so fun. I happened to have tuned in for a lot of your Origin streams because that's when I was playing Mass Effect 2. So I would like put you on the laptop and then play my game. And gosh, it's fun to watch. I know how much love you've got for the series. No surprise there, but that's awesome. Dragon Age Inquisition is at number 5.
Yeah,
Mikey,
number 5.
we're already back to you for your number 5.
I do have a quick technical thing.
Yes.
Connor, do you want to commit to using my Zoom audio or do a clap? Because my cat did unplug my microphone and I stopped my recording.
I saw that.
No.
I'll use the Zoom, and if you have something
Okay.
still going, you can still send it to me later.
I started again, but it'll be.
Is that George? Greg? What's the cat's name?
This is George.
George.
Yes. He's a very nice cat, but you kind of got to live by his rules, which is like he was up here and he was being very cute and cuddly, which is nice. But then he was going to bite me if I did anything out of line.
Then
so I had
George
to be
time.
very, very close. We're talking number 5. How about we get a good story-based game from me already?
Ooh,
Yeah, let's do it.
My number 5 is God of War 2018.
Ooh, okay. I had a feeling this was going to be somewhere on your list.
This had to be up here. This is a game that like every time I play it, I'm like, no, this is the best game I've ever played. It kind of like we were talking about with Hollow Knight. It's not my favorite game of all time, but it's probably the best game. I do feel like God of War 2018 might be the best game I've ever played. It feels good. It's got fun combat. It not only tells a great story, it tells a great story in the context of a very dumb story. It's most stories are starting from zero. Metal Gear Solid. I guess I had to address the NES games. Not really. Most stories are starting from zero. I would argue God of War 2018 was starting from like -3. That God of War 3 was stupid. And that character was stupid. Those games are great. I love those games a lot. But those stories are, I think the term is embarrassing.
Cringe, edgelord.
I think cringe is probably appropriate. Yeah. But like, to tell this story about a man reckoning with his past, where we've experienced how cringe his past was, like it really puts you in that character's boots. The story is incredibly sweet and kind, and also visceral and bloody. The fact that it can do, I love a story that can do 2 things at once. Like God of War 2018 is like upsetting in how brutal it is when you like grab a troll and like reach into his mouth and rip his top skull from his bottom skull.
My.
They call it a mandible. It's crazy how brutal that game is. And then there are just really sweet little moments where Kratos shares the ancient Norse version of a beer with his son. And they just have like sweet little moments together that are just like really honest and well observed. And the thing I love most about God of War 2018 is how simple the story is. Like it can do all these complex things, but it is very much like we have to climb a mountain to deposit my mother's ashes at the top of this mountain. great. And that's all it is. And then all it needs to be. And all of the like blockades you run into are all like really narrative driven. And it does feel like by the time you get to the top of this mountain, you have absolutely gone through a journey with these folks. You are connected to them. You couldn't love them more. I just like, it's a beautiful game.
It really is. I got to it so late. And by so late, I mean, 2021, like the year before Ragnarok came out, but everything I heard about it did not disappoint. It's amazing. I can't wait to see what they do with part 3. And I prefer 2018 by a decent amount to Ragnarok, despite loving Ragnarok as well. It's just hard to beat kind of what was a grand slam, perfect game, touchdown, 3-pointer. Any more sports I'm leaving out? A goal, hockey goal. It's just so good. But that's your number 5. We're staying with you though to get your number 4.
My number 4 is a representative of my greatest addiction, my biggest brain defect. I can get into a card game like no other. My number 4 game is Inscription.
Oh yeah.
It's a game I just played maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
This was like consuming your life at one point. I remember. I forgot about that time period.
This is how card games work for me. I just went through it with Balatro, which is an all-time great game that I have twice now had to physically go into my Switch and delete. I had real problems with Marvel Snap. Like I would download it and like couldn't stop playing it for 2 days. And just recently a friend of mine was talking about it, reminded me. I was like, oh, I can give this a shot again. And I tried it and like it lasted for 3 days and was just like, I have accidentally stayed up till 6 a.m. 3 nights in a row, like not meaning to, just thinking I'll do one more. Like it is a problem for me. Inscription does both. Inscription is one of the most addicting card games I've ever played. Like I love deck building. I love like min-maxing and finding like optimal builds to like just crush a game. I love that.
Mikey, were you ever a Magic guy or like Pokemon?
No.
Like, okay, I'm surprised like hearing you talk about this. I'm like, yeah, I didn't think you were like physical card person game, but
yeah, I can't do a physical card. Okay. That's tough for me because like I don't like buying the cards and I don't, you need somebody to play with.
Economy,
if I can have it in my Nintendo Switch and just dive into it. Slay the Spire I own and have been afraid of.
Oh, as you should be if this is what happens to you with card games.
I know. But Inscription not only has this like incredible card game, it has a very interesting and scary story. Like figuring out the context of why you're playing this game and who you are and what is going on. It surprises me. I realize this is another like aesthetic that I have. I would rather see, specifically with movies, I would rather have a movie take a giant swing and just be insane and wild, as opposed to like playing it safe, I'm trying to think of a movie. Love Lies Bleeding. I don't know if you guys saw that just this year with Kristen Stewart playing like Kristen Stewart and a very strong lady who fall in love. That movie just does the wildest shit I've ever seen, and I couldn't love it more. Ooh. Inscription does that 2 times, I think. Just like the story that it's telling has the wildest swing, and then it's a different story. And just when you kind of get accumulated to that, it does one more of those. It's so good. It's so fun. It's scary. It's creepy. It's got an escape room element that also like activates some of my like Resident Evil loving brain. There are puzzles that you explore a room to grab items that unlock new cards, and it all keeps coming back to cards, and you're playing this really great card game. Inscription is one of the scariest and best and most wonderful games that anyone ever made.
The art style is so good too, and like very stylized as well. That'll be another game that'll hold up like decades from now.
Yeah.
Gosh dang. And it's your number 4. I love that. 4. I remember like hearing you talk about this when it came out, and that's awesome. You're number 4, Roxy. How about yours?
Okay. So Mikey, maybe you'll be sad that this is my number 4 and not higher. But Resident Evil 2 remake.
Ooh.
Oh. That's gonna be on my list.
Yeah, I was like, it'll probably just be Mikey's number 1, right? That's my theory. Yeah, Resident Evil 2 remake, we played it on the Games Club as well, and like I had played it multiple times before that, but what a fun way to play this game with you guys all of that time when that was happening too. I've streamed the game, I've played it on my own time as well. And it made me fall back in love with the Resident Evil franchise as a whole, because like Resident Evil 6 is such a fucking mess, and it just made me realize like, oh, I guess this franchise isn't really like what I like anymore. I guess it's not doing anything I like.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. And then 7 came out, and it did very much reinvigorate like the horror aspect of it, which it sorely needed, because it started like edging into, well, not edging, it's just straight up fucking action movie bullshit. There's like so many explosions that just felt boring also, and like characters, too many of them who you don't give a shit about, don't make sense. So this was like a very focused, you only got a set amount of characters, you're in one location that is like kind of sprawling, there's only sort of one enemy type, which is one of the things I did not like about it. But it brought back the horror to it, like with the playable demo they had before the game came out. Like they took lessons from PT and really like did their own thing with it, which was so smart and well done. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't really want it to be first person, and some of the stuff they're doing, it doesn't really like jive with me, but I'm glad it exists. I'm glad they're doing this. And then Resident Evil 2 Remake is like the epitome of being like, okay, we're back in horror, where you choosing like one of the best games in the franchise to like redo and make such a good game out of. It's just amazing what they did with it gameplay wise, the way it looks, the way they did the story, the characters, everything. That just, I was like, okay, yeah, no, I forgot I love Resident Evil. Thank you, Resident Evil 2 Remake. And just the game is so good. And we did what, 11 episodes?
Dude, a lot.
Games Club with it.
Gosh. That we covered that game, like there wasn't a corner of that zombie infested, police station / rest of the game that we didn't touch. Gosh, it was so good. And I love seeing it on your list. I wasn't sure. Yeah, I know that you also adore this series. So these last few picks for the two of you, when it comes to a few franchises, I'm so excited for, including this. That's your number 4, RE2 Remake. Hearn.
Yes.
Number 4, please.
Number 4, please. So I am going to be a little more conventional in my top, because I'm the same age as some people here. We have a lot of the same reference points, a lot of the same big inspirations. I probably have 1 or 2 maybe big surprises that are like cool or off the cuff.
Yeah.
This next one probably doesn't need much of an explanation. Super Mario 64. If you were there for the time when it came out, 3D platforming, just the idea of it was bizarre and new and bold. And the fact that the big first one was like brilliantly designed and ingenious and full of like variety of itself, like the fact it made sense that you guys can do a games club about, because there was so much to build into just in every level. And it's that philosophy of like playground levels of like, so you have this one idea of a level, they have a core like monument, but how can you like create new scenarios around it? How can you build off of that? And obviously, as a 3D platformer, it still plays great. Like when it came out for Switch, it was a little finicky with the Switch, but I still played the hell out of it. Still 120 stars, because I just love the way like Mario moves in it and the worlds you can explore with it, and just what you're doing in it. It's not in that level of platform, like 3D platform telephony, but it kind of built up to it, but it's still so inventive. It's just, I mean, I could talk about it for days, but everyone knows this game. It's an excellent game.
I mean, it not only was like, and thanks for saying that, and I agree, it's like a great game to do a games club series on in our new format, which is we knew as of a year and a half ago, covering a game essentially chapter by chapter. But it was the game that gave me the idea to pitch that format. I was like, there's just like a toad that says a weird thing that you might not cover in like a 2-hour episode. But if we do, 13-hour-and-a-half episodes, we might get to that toad. So I love it. In fact, I mean, speaking of which, just to promote it while we're here, the final episode of that series is going to be dropping on the free Super NPC Games Club feed. So if you're a fan of Super Mario 64 listening to this, search Super NPC Games Club wherever you get your podcasts, and you're going to find it. The last one to come out is going to be actually the bonus, the DS episode. We talk about Super Mario 64 DS in 2 hours. It's crazy. Hearn, awesome. I don't know why I wouldn't have guessed that would be on your list. But we're gonna get maybe this will be a surprise for me or not.
Yeah.
Number 3.
To be clear, Hearn is importing the Japanese version of Mario
Yes,
64.
Of course.
I'm like the speedrunners who play it because it's faster text and I get through
It's
it.
got VLJs.
And again, I don't know much about speedrunning. I know that because I'm interested in how people play that game. So yeah, maybe this one is less conventional, and maybe I don't talk about tactic games that much. I know we have some friends who really love tactical games, like Josh Holiday was a very big tactics head. I think I love it when it's not just tactical, but like very customizable. I love games like Front Mission Free was like an early big one, and then Into the Breach I would even call a very tactical RPG with like building up stuff. This one is like the big one for me though, and I know it has sequels that maybe are expansive, but this one has a place in my heart. XCOM Enemy Unknown.
Oh, the first one. Okay.
Yeah, the first more recent one. I still need to beat XCOM 2, honestly, and that one is very expansive. That has like other mechanics going on that I really need to
my god, dude.
invest into.
Sorry, brief aside for me to hijack you. That game has really good mod support on Steam. I've literally turned XCOM 2 into Mass Effect Tactics. I'm not even joking. I just swapped it out. Like, that game's so cool. It's cool to see it on your list. I haven't played the first one, but heard good things.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure XCOM Enemy Known is a little more rudimentary and doesn't build as much. And I even liked there was a side one called Chimera Squad, which is very just like immediate action-y version that I
heard
like
that
a
one
lot.
was good too.
It's pretty good. It's cheaper too. It's a good bargain. But I just loved like getting into this and investing in the story of this and feeling out the narrative of it. I felt really accomplished. I think it builds very well. Like the last level is a very cool, it kind of Mass Effect-y thing of like you're on a spaceship at the end, just finishing the alien race. And with my favorite sniper, I dealt the last blow and it felt amazing. But like if you know the XCOM games, you can build specific characters, you can learn to love the specific characters, and you can really not want to lose them and really feel bad if you have to make tough decisions. But just as a sharp tactical RPG, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to breach stuff. It's a lot of fun to trick an alien into going to a place where there's a guy behind a door ready to kick it down and mow them down. It's all just super immediate fun action gamey, and you can cheat the hell out of it sometimes too, but it's just fun to play just with that mechanic,
dude.
Well, it seems like it really rewards you for setting up and like kind of getting a strategy down, or like knowing a map in like a very satisfying way. But oh my god, that game can kick your ass too, so I can totally understand the risk reward. And also you saying that you liked Demon Souls remake, that tracks that XCOM 1 would be also a game you'd like a lot.
Games that punish the heck out of me into loving them, basically.
Dude, nice. Good to see some like tactical love on this episode. Thank you, Hearn. XCOM Enemy Unknown, your number 3. Roxy, we're back for your number 3.
So my number 3 game is Nier Automata.
Whoa!
So I love this game so much. It was a really hard pick, honestly, between my top 3, and I feel like on any given day I might end up switching them around.
Okay.
This would have been my guess for you, for sure.
Yeah. Nier Automata, it's so good. It is another thing that like has to be played as a game, the way that they have it set up narrative wise and like the story it's telling. And like I almost put one of this director's other games on this list because of how much it impacted me as a child, which was a Drakengard 1 for the PlayStation 2. Is so good and weird as shit. And like the weird secret ending to that sets up Nier Automata in like a weird way where it's like you don't have to know that, but it's a really weird like little thing. The way this director like builds out stories and like the way his worlds are connected, but like not in a way where if you play any random thing, like you could play any of the other games in the franchise and not know any of the other ones, and it's totally fine. He makes it like approachable, which is very hard to nail. But you're playing as robots, it's or androids, excuse me. It's got aliens from space that you're fighting. It's an action RPG where you're able to like customize kind of some of your loadout. You've got a little like turret, a pod that will also fight as well. So like there's a lot of stuff you can do with the gameplay in terms of combat. And then just like narratively the way they split up this game and the kinds of themes and storytelling it's dealing with, like the beginning of the game versus where you end up at the end of the game is absolutely fucking insane bonkers in like the best way. It's so good. And just it's hard to kind of pitch this game to some people in a way because, like, Mikey, you played the first part of it, and then like when you do the A part and the B part, it's a little bit repetitive. So like if you're not super plugged in, I think a lot of people kind of like stop before they get into when everything like really takes off.
In my head, I beat this game, and then Roxy was like, "But actually, you have barely started this."
Yeah, yeah. And it feels very rewarding when you do it. But I can understand how that doesn't work for everyone as well. But this is like one of the most unique experiences I've ever had in a video game. And I wish I could like forget it so I could replay it all over again and like be able to discover it anew because it's just so much fun.
Yes.
And like the music is absolutely phenomenal. Like the music is great, the art direction is great, the combat's great, the storytelling is great. I love this game, and I should shut up or I'll be here for another half hour talking you guys' ear off.
You're fine. I forgot that this is one you love. You definitely nominated this for a Games Club series.
No, that was like... Jeremy, and I was like, Jeremy, I love this game, but I don't think you should put it on here for Games Club.
Maybe that was what Mass Effect ended up winning that games that election or whatever. But gosh, dang.
The category was Roxy Games, right?
Yeah, it was Roxy Games.
Practically was. Because like I didn't know Jeremy was gonna nominate that. So I was like, well, even if Mass Effect loses, maybe Nier will win.
Goodness. Well, that rules. Nier Automata, your number 3. McCollor, we're back to you, pal.
All right. I got a number 3 for you. This is the first one that syncs up. I think this is objectively the 3rd best game of all time and my 3rd favorite game of all time. Let's talk a little bit about Super Metroid.
Mother is mothering in this game.
I came to Super Metroid very late. Like, this is a game that I feel like in childhood I would have been afraid of, that I would have thought was too hard, that is not intuitive enough for me. And so I played it in college on like the Wii Virtual Console.
Oh.
And just what a beautiful game. It's so smart. It's so interesting. All the powers, like it created a genre for all intents and purposes. It has these incredible cinematic moments in it that like I'll never forget. The way that like you think you killed a boss and it comes back for one last scare kind of stuff. Like they tell the story. Crocomire is the answer. Yes. Like there's little storytelling moments that are purely environmental, but like its story is so bare bones. It's very subtle, but it's there and it pays off in a really beautiful way. Like, can't recommend Super Metroid enough. You guys hear this game?
Dude, I also super late to it, McCaller. I don't think I even really touched it until I got my SNES Mini, which I purchased from you.
Right.
And I dabbled in it on that. I played on it on Switch Online. I eventually did beat it for, of course, a co-op episode that Hearn and I did with a couple other friends. That's going to be releasing, I want to say in like November. That's coming out on the free feed on this Call Me by Your Game feed. But I just last year in December had like finished some stuff and booted it up and just played through it again because it's a borderline perfect game. I think it's so phenomenal.
I've done that so many times. I play through that game at least once a year because you just boot it up and you're like, I've got 20 minutes. I'll just pop in Super Metroid. And all of a sudden, I'm beating it. I'm just going to get through the whole thing. Each time, I feel like I still discover something new.
Yes.
I think you streamed this game as well, didn't you?
That sounds right. That seems like the kind of thing I would do.
Well, is that the one that has the statue jump scare?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Cat's out of control.
Yeah.
George is wanting attention.
It must
also be dinner
you.
time.
It's because he loves you.
George is being a real
It is
Ripley
dinner
to
time.
you
You're
right
exactly right.
How about this? If you can, let's get your number 2, and then we'll let you, and then you go feed him, and then we'll all be in like a good spot.
Right. Perfect. Okay. Yes. Let's talk about my number 2. My number 2 favorite game of all time is Super Mario Odyssey.
Oh,
you all thought I was going to say 64, huh? You all thought I was going to say 64.
A little bit, yeah.
it's insane to me that I'm making this list without Super Mario 64. Possibly the game I played the second most amount of time of any game. But I like the idea of letting Super Mario Odyssey stand in for Mario 64. There's obviously a clear lineage, but like Mario Odyssey does everything Super Mario 64 does. And it's just like in these varying sizes, like every level in Mario 64 has 7 stars, and every level in Mario Odyssey has a question mark number of moons. It's so creative and vibrant and bouncy. It's just like no game more purely distills joy for me than Super Mario Odyssey. I was just thinking about how like I similarly have Hearn, a girlfriend who was not into video games, and I'm slowly like finding things. And I was like, oh, the answer is Mario Odyssey. She can play that. It's super easy to play. She can progress as fast or slow as she wants. The only knock I've ever really heard about this game is that it's too easy, but even that I kind of like that you could get just enough moons to progress, or you could dig in and find every little secret.
Yeah.
Nothing is funnier than Super Mario Odyssey. It's probably the funniest game I've ever played. It's
really?
Just abound with ideas and like little surprises. I just think so much about like New Donk City, going to New Donk City, and just like every second of that has 3 of my favorite moments in any video game ever in just that one level.
Yeah, so good.
You sit next to a sad man and he gives you a moon. You go into one area and get on a motorbike, and then a dinosaur comes and chases you. So that's insane. And then the song, like there's this famous musical number that New Donk City concludes with that is just it makes me ecstatic.
Gosh, that's a game that I pretty much only played the once. Like got it day of, like adored it from head to toe, maybe started a second playthrough, and then like my copy disappeared with my first Switch when that got stolen. So I really want to purchase it again, like a loose cart, because I could see it jumping up my list. No pun intended, but McCollor, that's amazing. If you want to jump up
feed my cat.
Superstar and go feed your cat, you can.
I'm still listening though, so
I
don't
love
say
it.
anything
I love
mean
it.
about me.
Roxy,
I'm listening.
Speaking of which,
shit.
Roxy, I know you're gonna be.
I wanted to talk shit about you, but fine, I'll be well behaved.
I know you're gonna be tempted, but in lieu of talking shit about Mikey, why don't you just tell us what's your second favorite game of all time?
Again, my top 3, real hard to pick.
Yeah.
But I think I had to. Yeah, I got to be honest. I think Final Fantasy 14 is actually my number 2.
Ooh.
I am obsessed with this game. I am not an MMO person, even in the slightest.
What could your number 1 possibly be? Go on, but
I guess we're gonna find out.
We'll find out. It's also one you could have easily guessed too once you hear it. But like Final Fantasy 14 is so good. It's better than it has any right to be, and like that's just me kind of approaching it as like a single player experience practically, because I'm not an MMO person. I don't give a shit about the end game, like super difficult stuff. My main focus was like getting through the story and like exploring the world and all that, and it's so rich and vibrant, so detailed. The character writing and everything is so good. Like you wouldn't think, because it's an MMO, like this is the best written Final Fantasy, but in my opinion, it is the best written Final Fantasy game.
Wow.
And certain expansions in particular are like better than others as well. And like the game kind of starts out a little bit more standard. Like the Realm Reborn stuff isn't bad by any means. It's a little bit more like average. So like you might not understand why people are like freaking out about it until you get a little further in, which sucks, because then that's like, hey, yeah, play this game for like 40 hours and then it's going to be like blow you away. Which is like a big ask, but like getting into that, it was very fun. It has like a cozy vibe to it. Learning everything you can for it with like the job system. So like most MMOs, to my knowledge, you pick like one character that's one class, and then that's kind of like what you specialize as, right? In this game, you can be every fucking class all at once. So you can start out as a healer, kind of experiment around with that. Be like, I hate this. I want to be DPS. You can do that. So there's like 20 different classes. So if you ever get bored or want to switch, or like you feel like you jive with something better within that like DPS or tank or healer ranking, whatever, like it keeps it fresh. So it never feels like it's tedious or like oh, I made this choice at the beginning of the game and now I got to sit with it. And or start a new character or something. So it's very like user friendly. It's very like player focused. The guy who directs the game also plays the game and like took a lot of reference from like other games in the MMO genre. So like he plays it and is invested in it and cares about it, and like that shows. And so much of the team is like that. And like some of the writers who will write specific parts of the game too, you'll be like, oh man, that little storyline earlier on is like really cool. Then you learn later that like, oh, now that the woman who wrote that storyline, now she's writing this entire expansion and is now like the head of narrative over there. And like the story just keeps leveling up even more and more, which you wouldn't think possible when it gets to certain points, and yet it does.
Wow.
Which is very good. And I know I would try to tempt Mikey, but I know he won't get into it. But there's definitely like a Joker Batman kind of thing where they will introduce a couple of villains who will be a mirror to your character, because you're just playing as like the hero of light. Sure, you can make a couple different dialogue choices, but you're basically the silent protagonist for the main part. But they even managed to do some cool things with that, like with different villains, how they interact with you and things like that, that pay off too. That's really good. And then you can play it with your friends. So that's cool. They're even like, oh, now we've got like what is it? Like an Animal Crossing island where you can like have a vacation island that you build up and have little guys populate it and stuff. They're just constantly thinking of like new things to put in it, to level it up, to give you more to do, like fun stuff. And like, if you don't like it, you don't have to interact with it. So you can very much make your own fun out of it, which is very, very cool.
That's awesome. I mean, it just, if you know Roxy, to know Roxy is to know of Roxy's love for Final Fantasy 14. Truly no surprise here.
I'm not an MMO person, but it's like one of my favorite games. Is like I feel like I couldn't say that about any other game. It's so weird, but
that's such a testament to that game. I love it. Final Fantasy 14 is your second favorite game of all time. Hearn, we're back to you, buddy, and you are going to start by giving us your number 2, if you can.
Yeah, if I can. I think I can. So both of these, the top 2, I'm just looking at them like they're not the most Hearn pick. They're not the most weird. They're not what I'm known for. But they are so tantamount to everything I love about video game. They plug into every other game I've listed. They plug into every weird game I love, and they plug into just me loving game and loving, and more importantly, like understanding like the artistry of video games, what how they're made. Even I grew up with both of these games. I grew up with books on both of these games. I like play these games inside and out. So everything about them is in my DNA of video game. It almost feels like I can't have any other top 2 than these. And so number 2, going to have to start with Super Mario World.
Whoa!
For Super Nintendo, which
nearly
again
cracked my top 20, by the way.
Yeah. Plenty of 2D platformers I love that carry on the legacy of that. I love Celeste. I love Rayman Legends.
Yes.
I love like Donkey Kong Country games. But like the original Super Mario World, just that idea of like all the stuff I talked about, like that level design of like a monument that you build on and can pervert, and like just that's what the game like introduced me to, like more than even the original Mario games for Nintendo. The idea of like castle levels and like different like haunted levels and all the like different ghost houses and every like little like language that like knew there was something else about this level that could change it up.
Yes.
What that new level to do. There's just a billion secrets. I obviously got through them a little bit by cheating with the book that I had, but the book also like explained how it was developed, why it was developed that way. Like it just educated me. It's very tantamount to my like understanding of video game, and it still plays great. It's still awesome. Obviously, it's Super Mario World.
Dude, I mean, like, look, it's also one of the greatest games ever. I just didn't see that coming, and I love it. Well, why don't we start the real like event of this whole episode by listing your number 1 game of all time?
All right. And the more things change, the more they stay the same. It's the one I brought to you for my Call Me By Your Name episode.
Yes.
And you would think, oh, it's so old and forgotten. No, it's around and it's better than ever, baby. It's the original Doom for 1993 by
Ooh.
id Software,
Nice.
Okay.
which they just re-released. If you owned it on a Switch or Steam, or even I think PS4 at spots, you now have an updated version of Doom 1 and 2, and a new level for it called Legacy of Rust that I just finished a couple days ago. Very solid. It is just like, it's what video gaming is to me. It's a solid FPS as just inventing the thing that it's supposed to do. It creates the whole language of it all. And then it's also just sharp. It moves a million miles a second. It's great level design. It's immediate silent storytelling of like what you're supposed to do in these levels. Billions of tricks that are playing on what you've just learned. And it's endlessly replayable because it's supported by a mod community that still exists to this day, that are still making original levels, that are still like just for the love of the game, literally, because you can go on and become a game designer because of it, but it's like there are people that still just make levels and mods and different mods for it that take it all different world. My attitude is, it's like there's like a post-apocalyptic movie or something that I'm referencing about the idea of like, as long as there's fire out in the world, there's human life. As long as Doom is still alive and being supported, video gaming is doing great. It's still alive. There's still going to be people loving and playing it forever, and I'm going to be the forever loving soldier of Doom. I am the Doom guy.
Dude, you are Doom guy, the Hearn guy.
You are Doom guy.
Yeah.
It would be cool if Doom guy took off his helmet and it was just Hearn, smiling all cute.
Yes.
Well, very
Wow.
recently, that one mod went viral. It was like house.wad.
Yes, that my house.wad, yeah. And
Yeah.
even then, like, people are doing
So
weird
cool.
creepypasta things with it. Like, apparently you can't play it on the Switch or Steam port of the new, because it breaks that engine.
Oh,
you
does
have
it
to
really?
play it on like GZ Doom or something. Yeah, it's funny. And it's like, but that's just funny of like, you can break this game a million ways and people are still figuring out how to do it.
And the way they like were telling a story kind of at the end of it too is just like, this is a mod of Doom that somebody made. It's so cool. And it's just like you said, it's a testament to game design and the game itself in such a cool way.
And I imagine the Doom aesthetic is so important to that too. It couldn't be like, for the lore of it, it couldn't be, oh, I just invented a new game. It has to be like this forgotten Doom mod, supposedly.
Yeah, it's like it has a meta level to it where it's like, the guy who made it, stuff happened to him, and then you're playing it.
Yeah.
So
what's it called?
myhouse.wad.
Yeah, there's a bunch of very good YouTube videos that people have made covering it.
Yeah, if you don't, you can look up on YouTube. There's like a creepypasta story along with it, sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, this came out like 2 years ago, last year. Like, it's very recent. So I mean, people are still doing stuff. They're doing like fake Mario levels where you can jump and do them and collect coins. They're doing a Castlevania mod. I've seen like Indiana Jones mods. There's like a billion Doom mods that like go back as far as when the game came out. So this
amazing.
Is a forever game.
Yeah, isn't there also the joke that you can like run it on a calculator or something like one of those
Gamers Tavern?
Like you can run it on anything. Can it run Doom? It better. If it can't, then it's trash.
The most ported game of all time. I just saw like a volumic hologram that someone ported Doom.
I saw that too today.
Yeah, I showed it on the Discord because I saw it on Twitter. It's like impossibly ported.
Oh, that's
you can play it on a
it's
fridge.
So good.
Of course, you're the reason I saw that, Hearn. Well,
so,
I want to say too
again,
that this is
video gaming, period.
Truly, this is one of the most influential games of all time as well, even outside of like it just being kept alive. Like, I didn't know about Doom, but I played Dark Forces growing up, which is a Doom clone.
Yes.
Gamers Tavern, to the thing Roxy brought up, they mention like, I thought they couldn't top running Doom on a toaster, but then they ran Doom inside Minecraft, the ultimate Doom on a pregnancy test. And
that's awesome.
And Tavern also says, I had Doom when it was on 5 3 1/4 floppies, and 1/4 inch floppies. Just amazing. Hearn,
tip for the hat for that.
While this isn't surprising, and I thought this would top your list, I never get tired of hearing your passion for it.
It's amazing.
Thank you,
definitely
dude.
Check out my. I was really happy to do the Call Me by Your Name episode where I talked also. Again, I brought up the book about Super Mario World. I had books on how to design levels, how to break down Doom, what it was all about, how it was developed. And I talked about that a lot in the episode. I don't want to repeat myself, but yeah, just a game that I just showed me how you can break apart a game, and it was amazing to know that. So love this game forever.
Dude, well, we'll come back to you for one last thing at the end of this episode, but thank you. Roxy, now it's your turn. What is your number one game or games of all time.
Okay, I think you might be able to guess it from that little intro. So my number one game of all time is the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. So I get a 3 for 1
Yes, you
pick on
do.
this. Yes, so the Mass Effect
Oh.
Legendary Edition is the trilogy, so it's all 3 of them, 1, 2, and 3. Yeah.
I love it. Man, I mean, I've known you love this game for a long time, but this year I've gotten to watch you play 2 of them. I don't think I caught any because you played through 3 as well on Insanity, right?
Yes, I played
I
through
think I
all of them.
missed
I
that whole
platinumed
stream.
them. Okay, it was a lot. But I love these games so much. And like the Legendary Edition version of it is so well done. Like everything together, everything like boosted up. They improved Mass Effect 1 so much. All of the DLC is on all of these. The way it you can just like access it right out of the box. So it's not like you have to go to the store to buy it or anything. And these games are just so great, especially playing through them recently, like back to front, because I was platinuming them. So like I was playing them on harder difficulty levels, which I hadn't done in the past, and like holy shit, some of the most frustrating and rewarding like parts of games I've had probably like from this year. Mass Effect 2 in particular was like so tough.
Dang.
And like I played as the most squishy class. I basically made it even harder on myself. So like Mass Effect 2 Insanity is the hardest out of all 3 of them. And then I was like, what if I played the most squishy class where I pop my head out for a minute and I get instantly like killed? That seems like a great idea, right? And I'm not like a huge person who platinums games usually, but like I did it on stream, so like everybody was cheering me on, even when I was getting like so mad at something. Like it was still super fun, and like when I finally pushed through it, it was very satisfying. And because I was playing a weird class, sometimes I'd find weird ways to get around stuff when I just keep dying and dying at a certain area. To be like, oh, can I actually shoot this thing before I enter the arena and have to fight this thing? Oh, I actually can. Okay. So like trying to figure out weird little things like that. And it makes your squad makeup like really important and like who you're taking with you as well. But just like narratively, these games as a trilogy, it does sort of miss the mark at the ending of 3, but like 3 gets dunked on way more than it deserves. Like so much of 3 was really good, and I had forgotten a lot of it until I got to doing this recent replay. And just all 3 of them together, like each one feels very different and distinct. They give you a different experience, but it's all like very cohesive and all towards the same like a narrative that you get to shape, which is so much fun. I want to live in this world. I just want to go to sci-fi cyberspace and be friends with a bunch of aliens kicking around on a big old ship, the sentient AI, you know. Like it's such a fun like cozy game experience. It's just so near and dear to my heart, and probably one of like my favorite stories in games. Period. Some of my favorite characters. Some of like the gameplay in Mass Effect 3. I didn't really remember it being that great, but like especially playing it on Insanity, it was so much fun. And I'm like not even playing as the class that everybody is usually like, oh yeah, you play as, oh god, is it Sentinel? Gamers Tavern Show, who's in chat will know immediately what's the one that everybody like yells about that you need to play. Lets you like warp around the field, punch things.
And what did you play as?
I played as an adept the entire time, so it's kind of like the equivalent of a magic class.
I did the same class, yes.
Yeah.
Except I wasn't doing Insanity on Mass Effect 2. I was doing whatever normal is. And I mean, we just got
recommended, honestly. Like if I wasn't trying to specifically get the platinum, I don't think I'd ever play Mass Effect 2 on Insanity again, but I would definitely play like 1 or 3 because those are very fun experiences on Insanity.
Gotcha. By the way, Tavern says Vanguard is the one.
Vanguard, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one that everybody else about.
You and I, along with Beverly Jean and Eddie Martin, just got to do a massive, ridiculous co-op episode on this game. It was so much fun. It's also the stupidest thing I've ever done with a podcast episode. Wait, give myself way too much.
Stupid. It was really fun and like creative, and what a neat little thing you did.
Thank
it's not
you.
Stupid.
I love. Don't get me
Connor
wrong.
Saying
I
that
love
about himself.
I appreciate that. I love the end product. It was just way more work right as I was trying to leave for a vacation than I expected.
I guess the stupid thing would be you giving yourself too much work, but
that's
the
what
end product was very fun and worth it.
Like, go listener, even though that is a Patreon exclusive for the audio version for a certain tier on our Patreon, the video lives on YouTube, so you can still go watch that. But Roxy, you're like the Mass Effect person in my brain, and I have a lot of Mass Effect people in my brain, including the people on that episode. and even recently McCollor, but that's
I'm really good at
awesome.
yapping about it. I yapped about it for like hundreds of hours on stream. You guys
You're
can
great
go
at
to my
that.
VODs.
Yes.
I'm insufferable about it.
Oh, I love it. Well, that's your number one is the Mass Effect Legendary Edition.
Yes.
We'll circle back again for one last thing. Yes, McCaller.
Can I tell you, Roxy, I'm such a solipsist that like when you said Final Fantasy 14 was your second favorite game, I was like, but she already talked about Mass Effect. What could it possibly be? Yeah, I
That's
talked
because
about
it was you.
me.
Yeah.
It was me who did
That's
it.
so funny. Well, speaking of you, Mr. Ladd, let's get your number one favorite games
I think I know what this is.
of all time or
My
game.
favorite game of all time, Master Blaster. No, come on. It's Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2 is the answer.
Yeah.
But I too, like Connor, have two games as my favorite game of all time, because my answer is simply Resident Evil 2.
Which one?
I will not choose.
Exactly.
The
Both.
concept of Resident Evil 2.
Which one? Yes.
The answer is both. The answer is yes. Yeah, Resident Evil 2 is such a like shocking experience that I got to have. Like I shouldn't. It's everybody's wish is to play their favorite game for the first time again. I think we've all said it a couple of times here today. Like, man, I wish I could play it again for the first time. You know, my favorite movie. I wish I could see it with fresh eyes. I wish I could rewatch Lost.
Where
and
are
not
the
know
Men in
what's gonna
Black
happen.
when we need them? Flash me.
I got to do it. I got flashed by Men in Black, and the Men in Black were Capcom, and they were smart, nice, sweetie pies to me, and gave me a special gift in this Resident Evil 2 remake. But
It's
Resident
so
Evil 2 original, like, is probably like not as important as Resident Evil 1, but is such a better, like in the same way that like I ultimately ended up going with Mario Odyssey over Mario 64. Like I think I do trend towards something that perfected a formula as opposed to invented a formula. I'm very grateful for games that invent it, but like somebody does it perfectly. And I would argue Resident Evil 2 is that old style of game done perfectly. It's like this big story that also feels contained. It feels very like apocalyptic and horrifying right at the very beginning.
my
While,
God.
like like what game is more economical than Resident Evil 2? Like in terms of making you think that the entire city is being destroyed, it's not. It is exactly the same like individual small hallways as the first game, but it just like does these smart storytelling like dress up beats to make it feel like it's gone out of control.
And the way that I didn't talk about this in mine, but like the way they reinvented Mr. X in this one as well.
Oh yeah,
it's just like it's such a level up from the original, even though like the original obviously was very good too, but like he's a whole different thing in this one.
About an all-time great moment in a video game. Like I knew that this guy was in the game, and I had never played a version of this. It was my first Resident Evil game, period. And the moment that you see him, I had a full-on yelped and just freaked out.
Amazing.
And it was as scary as I like could have wanted. It was amazing.
There's something about like the way I play these games, like replaying them, that like Mr. X in both the original Resident Evil 2 and the remake, he's still scary. Even having played this game, like there's still ways he can mess you up, even if you are the proest of the pro. There's this very interesting mechanic that keeps you kind of on your toes in Resident Evil 2 remake that Mr. X delivers. It's like this first real return to they're doing it a little bit in Resident Evil 7, but it's not as engineered as the puzzles became in Resident Evil 2 and in Resident Evil 2 remake, that like all of a sudden we're taking bolt cutters around and we're trying to remember where were all the places we used the bolt cutters. Resident Evil 7, brought it back for sure, but it was very much like a one-to-one, like you find bolt cutters, you use bolt cutters, you find this, you find that. Like I love collecting 4 crests. That's going to be something I love for the rest of my life. Oh, 3 lion medallions? Yes, I will hunt those and I will collect them for you. That feels right. That feels the way, like that feels how you should tell a story. You should just say you have 7 legendary stars and you have to travel all around Mario and open the 1,000-year door. Like that just how story should be. I'm sorry. And Resident Evil 2 does it 17 or 18 times.
Gosh.
I feel such a connection to those characters, even though like I've made this argument about Resident Evil 7 a bunch. Like that character that you play as, Ethan, is drab and empty, but he's not that much more drab and empty than the rest of the Resident Evil characters. And yet I have such an affection for them in a way that I don't for Ethan. Maybe it's just because it's third person and I can see them, but man, Claire and Leon are funny, and Resident Evil 2 Remake gets it. They know how they're funny. They know how to make those characters funny again. The fact that there are so many memes about Mr. X, and it kind of got weird towards the end, but like the idea that Chris is like obsessed with getting Leon to continue the Redfield bloodline with Claire.
God,
it's
that
like
fucking joke.
it got gross. I will be clear, but at the start, that's very funny. Like Leon is such a like lovesick little puppy, and that you would have this other character come in and like be really like too hard wingmanning for his sister. There's just enough character there to let you fill in any blanks you have, so they kind of become your own. They kind of feel closer to you than they really are. And just
you get
like
2 stories for the price of 1 too, because each character has their own thing.
2 cool stories.
Amen. Gosh, that game.
Yeah, Resident Evil 2, that's pretty good.
That was like one of my favorite experiences all last year, was like diving into that with you guys. And
yeah,
like I have itches to play it again. And it's been less than a year and it was my first. So like, I think for me, it's going to be 4 Remake next. Whenever
there's also 3 Remake. I will defend it till I die. I almost put it on the list. Don't listen to Mikey's little
You're right. There is also 3 Remake. Well, folks,
also 3 Remake.
To close this out, what I'd like to do is to have each of you just go through 10 through 1 again for me, just kind of rapid fire list them. We'll start with you, Hearn. Will you just list off your top 10 favorite games of all time?
All right. Number 10, Fortnite. Number 9, Earthbound. Number 8, Dead Cells. Number 7, Hitman, World of Assassination. Number 6, The Legend of Zelda, A Link Between Worlds. Number 5, Demon Souls PS5 Remake. Number 4, Super Mario 64. Number 3, XCOM, Enemy Unknown. Number 2, Super Mario World. Number 1, Doom.
Love it. Roxy, let's go to you.
All right. Fallout 4 is number 10. Number 9 is Shin Megami Tensei Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2. Number 8 is Final Fantasy 8. Number 7 is Persona 3 Portable. Number 6 is Shadow Hearts 1 and 2. Number 5 is Dragon Age Inquisition. Number 4, Resident Evil 2 Remake. Number 3, Nier Automata. Number 2, Final Fantasy 14. And number 1, the Mass Effect Legendary Edition.
Lovely. McCaller.
Okay. All right. I got at number 10, Resident Evil 0. At number 9, Resident Evil 3 Remake. At number 8 is Resident Evil 8, just like Roxy. At number 7, Resident Evil 4 Remake. At number 6, Resident Evil 4 Original. At number 5, Resident Evil 7. At number 4, Resident Evil 1. At number 3, like Roxy, Resident Evil 3. At number 2, Resident Evil Code Veronica. And number 1, Resident Evil 2.
You know, I will say I couldn't believe it took me to get to your number 8 for me to realize what was happening there. I was actually hoping you'd list the list you just made on the podcast.
Oh, got it. Okay,
Yes.
yeah, you didn't clarify.
Yeah, that is my fault.
You didn't say which one. So
that's
okay,
a bonus
yeah.
list, though. Hey,
Yeah.
you listeners, you got a bonus list for Mikey.
My number 10, Resident Evil Code Veronica. Number 9, Batman Arkham Knight. Number 8, Guacamelee 2. Number 7, Mass Effect. Number 6, The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. Number 5, God of War 2018. Number 4, Inscription. Number 3, Super Metroid. Number 2, Super Mario Odyssey. And number 1, Resident Evil 2. Which one? Yes.
I love it. Folks, we've done it. Another top 10 favorite games of all time episode. This has been lovely. Let's go ahead and get a round of plugs before I close us out and whatever you want the listener to know. So, Hearn, we'll go back to you again. Anything you want to plug while you're here today?
Yes, I'd like to plug Doom 1 and Doom 2, now playable on your Switch, PlayStation,
yeah.
Xbox, also your refrigerator, your volumetric hologram,
Oh,
your
yay.
Minecraft, whatever. But you can also go see my short films at michaelchearn.com. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Michael C. Hearn. That's about it for me. Thank you.
Lovely. Roxy Polk.
I am on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Twitch, all as Red Mage Roxy. I'm streaming 3 days a week. As I said before, I am going through all the Dragon Age games in preparation for Veilguard, which comes out on Halloween of all days. So, if you want to join me for those, and also other streams when I stream other games, please join me for those too. Yeah, I'm working on other stuff that I can't really isn't really like out enough to say.
Cool.
So yeah, just follow me on
Mysteries?
Exciting.
Maybe. Ooh.
Cool. I mean, truly, go check out Roxy's stream. It's just always an awesome time. Even if you don't know anything about the game, I'll watch Final Fantasy 14 streams and I have a good time. And I don't know a thing.
Aw.
I don't know what a mage is, and that's not true. McCollor, what plugs do you have today, bud?
I don't know what a video game is.
Yeah.
I would like to plug Swap, the Patreon exclusive podcast we do here on Super NPC. I just did an episode with Connor McCabe that is launching kind of a new format for me where I just dive real deep into one video game rumor. We just covered Luigi in Super Mario 64, where that may have come from, what it may mean.
Shit.
That's coming up on my YouTube, which is youtube.com/@secretblimp. I am also very shortly going to have a sketch up that stars Jorge Garcia from Lost.
Yeah.
Wow, what a great thing.
Yeah. So exciting, Mikey.
That's cool and fun. And then I had one other thing I was gonna say. Oh, twitch.tv/secretblimp. Taking this new format of Swap and gonna try a stream version where I just on stream go and research an interesting little video game urban legend and watch YouTube videos. That feels like the next Twitch thing I'm ready to try. So check that out. Twitch.tv/secretblimp.
You get to see Mikey investigate in real time. Look at
I'm a
that.
journalist.
What more could you want?
I'm a little journalist.
Well, speaking of that and everything that our guest just plugged, and everything I'm about to plug, listener, go check the show notes, whether on YouTube or a podcast catcher of choice. Scroll down. There's going to be a nice link that I've made to each of these plugs, including all the crap I'm about to say right now. The cover art for Call Me By Your Game is done by Glenn J. You can find him and all of his great work on Instagram at Glenn with 2 N's.J. A.Y. The show is produced, edited, and the music is by Jeremy Schmidt. If you want to give him a little tip of the cap as a thank you for all the work he puts onto this show, you can go ahead and listen to his podcast, Video Games, a comedy show, wherever you get yours. The show is all over social media on, we've got Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, Super NPC Radio. This podcast network is all over socials as well. Links in the show notes, including the Twitch channel there. You can follow me on all those places. Follow me on Twitch. We are recording this episode live, so if you want to come watch the occasional podcast episode get recorded, or me just play a video game that I feel like playing, follow me at twitch.tv/consiscool69 for all sorts of fun. And then lastly, again, if you like listening to me talk to people about video games, check us out on Patreon over at patreon.com/supernpcradio, where we have bonus video game podcasts that come out every single week from our games club. Again, we just finished Hollow Knight and we're jumping into Death Stranding, to Swap, which McCollor mentioned, or a monthly group version of this podcast where we talk about one game at a time in an overview format. We are just, as this episode comes out, the week later, we're going to have an episode all about Psychonauts 2. The theme this year for me on that series, on the co-op series, is sequels. Most of them are direct sequels, like the number 2 in a series. Some of them are, I fudge the numbers a little bit to make it work. But again, bunch of bonus crap for you there. Without further ado, folks, that'll do it for this episode of Call Me By Your Game. We will see you on the next one.